The year is 2016, and everyone is staying up late and losing sleep to talk to pretty anime boys, because the mobile otome game made by Chariots, Mystic Messenger, was just released. Mystic Messenger took the world by storm. Everyone was playing this game, and it introduced a lot of people to the otome genre. To this day, Mystic Messenger is still loved and looked back on fondly by thousands of people. So for those of you who don't know, what is Mystic Messenger? Well, like I said, it's a mobile otome game. But there is something special about it. The game is formatted through chat rooms, where you text the characters and get to know them that way. The game is also in real time. Each route takes place over the course of 11 days. 11 real-life days. Chat rooms will open up at certain times throughout the day, and you have until the next one opens up to enter it. This is what really made this game a moment for everyone that was playing it. We were all playing through these routes in real time. 11 days for each one. We were playing this game for months. The real-time text-based game was totally unique and new. But what really made this game so special was the story and its characters. This game is so well written and interesting, and the characters are super lovable. Now, let me tell you, Mystic Messenger is a crazy game. Like, you think you're going to play a game where you're texting pretty boys, but it's so much more than that. If you've never played this game before, would you believe me if I told you a main plot point was that there is a crazy cult trying to kidnap you? I've played this game so many times over the years, and even I find myself being like, oh yeah, that game is kind of crazy. Like, I promise that there are so many insane plot points that you've probably forgotten about. Anyway, if you couldn't tell, this video is going to be all about revisiting Mystic Messenger. I'm going to take you through each route and remind you of all the crazy things that happened, and also show you why it was so special and loved. Now, we're just going to go through the main 7 routes, and not all the side content, phone calls, bad endings, etc., or else we're going to be here forever. I'm also only going to go through the after endings for 7, V, and Saeran, as those are the only ones that are actually important to the plot. And if you've never played Mystic Messenger before, please be aware that I'm going to spoil everything in this video. But if you don't care about spoilers, or you've played the game before, you're all good. One final thing before we get started, I unfortunately do not have enough storage on my phone to screen record all of the routes. So all the footage in this video will be from these lovely channels. Please go and support them. Thank you. Alright, enough of the introduction, let's get into Mystic Messenger. I'll start by giving you the basic background information on the story and characters. You suddenly enter a private messenger app against your will. This is the messenger for a group called the RFA, which stands for Rika's Fundraising Association. It's a group that hosts parties to raise money for charity. The group was founded by a girl named Rika, but she passed away due to unaliving a few years ago, and the group hasn't hosted a party since. You, the main character, will be tasked with being Rika's replacement and hosting the parties. So aside from chatting with the characters, you'll also be answering emails from all the guests the characters invite and convince them to come to the party. Some of the guests are normal, and some are really weird. Now let's meet the members of the RFA. First up is the youngest member, Yoosung Kim. He's a college student and gamer. He's obsessed with a game called LOL. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. I mean, that's how he says it. LOL. He's also Rika's cousin and is struggling with her death. Next up is Zen. He's a musical actor who is growing in popularity. He's also, how do I put this? A narcissist. He's always, constantly talking about how beautiful, pretty, and talented he is. He never stops. He's always sending selfies of himself to the group and praising himself. Next up is my favorite character, Jumin Han. Oh, that man. He's a rich CEO in line for the company his father owns, CNR. The others often call him a robot, since he's always looking at things from a logical perspective and never seems to express his emotions. That is, except for when it comes to his precious cat, Elizabeth III. He loves his cat more than anything and always dotes on her. Then there's his assistant, the only other female in the group, Jaehee Kang. Her life is her job, as she's constantly overworked. When she does have free time, she dedicates it to watching Zen's musicals. She's a huge fan of his. Next up is the mysterious hacker in charge of the group's security, 707. 707 is his code name since he's a member of a hacking agency, but he also goes by 7, or his baptismal name, Luciel. He's extremely energetic and is always joking around with the members. And finally, there's the leader of the RFA, V. He was Rika's fiance, and he's Jumin's childhood friend. He doesn't show up to the chat room very often, and seems to have a lot of secrets surrounding him. The game is split into 3 different story modes, with different routes and common routes in each. There's Casual Story, which is for Yoosung, Zen, and Jaehee's routes, Deep Story for Jumin and 7, and another story for V and Ray. I know I didn't say who Ray is, but we'll get there eventually. We'll obviously be starting with the Casual Story routes, but first we need to get through the prologue. The game begins with you entering the messaging app and talking with a mysterious user named Unknown. He says that he's happy he finally got through to someone. The phone he's been texting from is not his. He found it and is trying to find the owner, so he's been messaging the contacts. He wants you to help him find the owner. If you ask him what his name is, he's just like, oh, that's not important. I'm just a student. You can't find me if you Google my name. You could ask him why you should help him and why he's so concerned with finding the owner, but he dodges the question by saying stuff like, I have a religion and it requires me to do good. So we download a random messaging app, talk with a user named Unknown who tells us nothing about themselves and insists that we help him find the owner of the missing phone he found. This is so sketchy, and yet we agree to help him. He says that he has the address of the phone owner and tells us to go there. Like the idiot we apparently are, we do as he says. No one answers the door after knocking, but Unknown is like, oh, it's fine, I have the pin to unlock the door. Use it and go inside. And we do! We just enter this random apartment. We have no self-preservation instincts, apparently. And I don't know what the plan was for once we got in there anyway. It's not like we can return the phone because Unknown has it. So all we do is just awkwardly stand there until all of a sudden we're thrown into the RFA chat room. All of the characters are chatting with each other until they notice in the chat room and are like, what the heck? Who is that? How did they even get in here? 707 uses his hacking abilities to discover that you're in Rika's apartment, making the members super suspicious. You explain your situation, and 7 is able to find out who you are and determine that you're innocent. Zen and Yoosung are immediately trusting of you and start introducing themselves and the others to you. V enters the chat and very quickly decides that this unknown person must have known Rika and wants you to continue her work. You learn about what the RFA is and how you would have to talk to potential guests through emails. As all of this is going on, Zen won't stop flirting with you now that he knows you're a girl. Yoosung and 7 offer up a bunch of information about everyone, Jaehee is suspicious, and Jumin reminds me of why he is the best character. After this, they ask you if you'll join the RFA and help them put on parties again, and you accept. Here's the thing though, you are now expected to live in Rika's apartment. You can't leave. For some reason, in order to email party guests, you have to stay there. The apartment is supposedly full of important information about past guests, but V tells you not to touch any of it. So what is the point of me being here? Why can't I do this from my own home? They never give an explanation for this. Anyway, now you're an official member, and V says that he'll announce the date of the party soon. Everyone leaves the chat room, ending the prologue. Now you can officially begin day 1 of the game, entering chat rooms and talking with the characters every few hours. We're going to go through the casual story routes first, but that doesn't matter too much yet because day 1 for both casual and deep story are exactly the same. Since it's the start of the game, the chat rooms on this day aren't too long and are mostly about getting to know the characters. Yoosung is really sweet and is excited you'll be continuing Rika's work. Jaehee thinks that you're not taking this situation seriously enough. Zen flirts with you some more and complains that he's been single for 5 years. Jumin talks about how much he loves his cat, Elizabeth III. Zen is allergic to cats, so he goes on about how awful they are, and dogs are better, and no one cares about his cat. Jumin yet again proceeds to remind me why he's the best character. Clearly, I am biased because I love Jumin and Zen has always kind of annoyed me, but I've never liked how mean Zen is to Elizabeth III. I get you have an allergy, but it doesn't mean cats are evil and you should be like, ew, get that thing out of here, when a picture of her is sent. Then we learn that 7 is a cat abuser. He loves cats more than anything, but Jumin won't let him anywhere near Elizabeth III because he's been caught breaking into his house and squeezing her and just generally making her uncomfortable. 7 is looking into this unknown person, but if he learns anything, he'll need permission from V to tell us about it. This upsets Yoosung because he doesn't trust V. He never tells him anything, and he thinks that he's lying about Rika ending her own life. He then talks about how important his cousin was to him. Jaehee explains that she didn't join the RFA of her own will, but rather because Jumin wanted her to. Then she tells you more about your role. She says that Rika exchanged emails with guests in the apartment. Why did she have to do it in the apartment though? Let me leave! Then Jumin says that you're surrounded by important documents about the guests in the apartment, but V already told me that I can't touch them, so they do me no good. Plus, most of the guests we invite to the party have never been to one in the past, so the documents wouldn't even help me even if I was allowed to use them. Zen tells us that V is a famous photographer and they auction off his pictures at parties. 7 sends a photo of himself in a blonde wig and tells you that it's a picture of Rika. Yoosung can't concentrate on playing games like he normally does because we joined the RFA. Since we're taking over Rika's role, to him, it feels like she didn't completely disappear. Jumin is worried that Jaehee is against the party because she doesn't trust us. But she says she's not because Jumin always works better and is more motivated when there's a party, and it makes CNR look good. Zen informs us that V rarely comes to chat because he's always traveling. The day ends with Yoosung saying that he wants to feel Rika through us. and Jaehee answering more of her questions about the members. Now we're on day 2, meaning from here on, the chats will shift to focus more on Yoosung, Zen, and Jaehee, since these are the routes that we can get on in casual story. Jumin makes Jaehee babysit Elizabeth for him while he's busy with work, which he's upset about due to all the cat hair. Zen continues to complain he's single, but states he probably wouldn't have time for a girlfriend anyway. We learn that V and Rika were in a very serious relationship and considering marriage. Also, Jumin is against slavery. Yoosung struggles through his college classes. Seven expresses his love for Elizabeth, while Zen expresses his hatred. V makes an appearance and says that people have reached out to him asking if there's going to be a party, meaning Unknown is probably spreading information about us. He says that he'll set the party date soon and leaves. Yoosung talks more about how he doesn't trust V. He got over Rika's death way too fast. Zen gets a new role in a musical. He's playing Jisoo from Cherritz's other game, Dandelion. Zen starts to go on about how manly and handsome he is, and Yoosung doesn't care because he's too busy playing games. That is such a mood, Yoosung. Jaehee reveals herself as a huge Zen fan. She goes on and on about how great he is, but tells you that you can never date him because people will get jealous. Oh god, he's getting the K-pop idol treatment. On day 3, Zen is like, Jaehee is pretty interested in my new role. Seven says that she's his fan, and he's like, no, she's not. And then you can say that you're his fan, and he's like, yay! Poor Jaehee. Then he goes on about how talented and handsome he is before finishing the conversation by saying he hates Jumin because he's rich. Yoosung has a test in the morning, but instead of studying, he stays up all night playing games. Jaehee enters the chat room and is like, this is why you don't have a girlfriend. Poor Yoosung. Zen trash talks Jumin and pays the price for it. Zen talks about how great he is yet again, and Jaehee is all, his body is art. And Yoosung says that Zen is a narcissist and his game is art. And Jaehee is like, no! Zen and Jaehee say that Yoosung would be able to get a girlfriend if he stopped gaming and was more like Zen. He wishes that he had time to go on dates, and Jaehee says that's a bad idea. His work is more important than love, and all of his female fans would be very jealous. Poor Zen. Yoosung logs on, says that he's lonely if he doesn't play games, then leaves to, yep, you guessed it, play more games. The casual story trio are all in the chat room at night and discuss what it would feel like to be locked up.
여긴 천국이야.
What the heck? Then Zen tells us he used to ride a motorcycle. One time he got in an accident, but V took him to the hospital and saved his life. On day 4, Yoosung drinks a cup of coffee so he can stay up and play more games. Seven convinces him that he has a rare disease called pass out after drinking caffeine syndrome, and if he drinks coffee, then in a few hours he'll pass out and he may never wake up again. The only chance he has at waking up quickly is if he drinks a bunch of chocolate milk. In the morning, after drinking a lot of chocolate milk, Yoosung learns the truth and feels like a fool. Then Jaehee gets sad that she's just an assistant. V shows up and is like, we're holding the party in a week, bye. And Yoosung gets mad at him again. Jaehee is sad she has to watch Elizabeth again because Jumin got pulled into a meeting on his day off. Yoosung decides that he's going to quit gaming so he can raise his test scores. Yoosung wonders why he can't get a girlfriend, and Jaehee comes into the chat and goes, you're short, you game too much, you're not wild, and your hoodie is ugly, be more like Zen. And then sends a picture of a framed photo of him. Dear lord, girl. Then she's all, ooh, Zen should take a workout selfie. I forgot how down bad Jaehee is. Seven says that Zen is a narcissist, and Jaehee is like, he has no choice, he's too hot. Jaehee, chill. Then she's like, hey MC, it's not appropriate for members to date each other, so stay away from Zen. Oh my god. Zen and Jaehee tease Yoosung and are like, ha ha, you're single. There's no way you can quit games so quickly. He gets upset and leaves the chat room. I'm starting to remember why these two were my least favorites. V arrives and we learn that he and Jumin are childhood friends. He says that he'll be leaving on a business trip, but will be back before the party. Seven teases Yoosung and says that he's the reason that he quit games. So Yoosung is like, okay, screw you. I'm gonna go play games. The best boy comes back from his business trip. His father made him do a photo shoot for a magazine, and he sends a picture, and Zen is like, ugh, so pretentious. I don't want to hear that from Mr. I'm so handsome and manly, here's 8 selfies. Then he has a bad dream and comes into the chat room and is like, what if we're all robots giving programmed responses? Yeah, that'd be crazy. And that is the end of day 4. So let's move on to our first route. The sweet and adorable Yoosung was my very first route back in 2016, and he was my original favorite. Until I was won over by a very handsome CEO in line. And then he kept getting pushed further down the list thanks to a tragic cult member and a silly hacker. But Yoosung and his route will always have a special place in my heart. The route starts with Seven sharing an old photo of the RFA, where Yoosung has brown hair. He says that he was a nerd devoted to his studies back then, but he got lazy after Rika died. In the morning, Yoosung says that we've given him courage over the last few days. He wants to impress us and work hard again. Later, he says that he's jealous of Seven and wishes that he was really good at something, like he is with hacking. We encourage him, and then he shows us a picture he has in his wallet of him and Rika. He says that when he looked at it today, he thought of you. This is the beginning of the infamous plotline. If you don't know about it, well, buckle up. Zen practices too hard and breaks his ankle. Yoosung says that he's had a hard time staying motivated and dedicating himself to one thing since Rika died, but now he feels that we do that for him. He feels as if he's with Rika again. Yoosung cleans his room and finds an old picture of him and Rika. He tells the story of how he first met his cousin in the 6th grade, when he had to fulfill a volunteering requirement. She taught him how great it was to help people, and he admired her ever since. He says that we're like Rika, because we're also fantastic. We tell him that we're not Rika though, and he's like, yeah, but you're basically the same to me. He says that Rika didn't show up to his graduation, and he later found out that that was the day she died. Day 6 starts with Jaehee being like, Zen, your poor ankle, you must be preserved. Later, Seven admits that he doesn't know what Yoosung's major is. Yoosung is offended by this and wants everyone to guess what they think it is. In the morning, Jumin finds an abandoned cat outside. Elizabeth III doesn't like the kitten, so he can't keep it, and he needs someone else to take it. He says Seven and Zen are out of the question, so either Yoosung or Jaehee will have to take it. Zen shows up later and is like, I'm offended. Why don't I meet Jumin's standards to take the cat? Now, why do you think, Zen? Jaehee and Yoosung both say that they don't want the cat. By now, everyone has said that they don't know what Yoosung's major is, as he's never mentioned it. This offends him, and he refuses to tell anyone. He says that no one but Rika, and now us, care about him. Seven says that he wants the cat so that he can stretch it every day and turn it into the next long cat. And yes, you can invite the long cat to the party. He's the best guest. Zen asks if you and Yoosung like each other. You say yes, but I swear Yoosung just didn't read this chat, because later on, he doesn't acknowledge it. Jaehee says that the two of you would make a good couple. Jumin heads off on another business trip to a winery. Seven asks Yoosung if he likes us, and he says yes. Seven then asks if he thinks we're similar to Rika, and he says yes. Seven says, in what way? And Yoosung says, well, they're doing the same work, and won't they look similar? You say that you might not look like her, and Yoosung is like, no, you probably do. Seven, the only one who knows what we look like, says that we don't look like Rika, and Yoosung is like, well, they probably feel similar. And Seven is like, no. We once again say that we're not Rika, and Yoosung is like, no, but you're similar. If you haven't caught on yet, Yoosung is in love with us because he sees us as Rika, his cousin. Seven tries to tell him that he can't distinguish us from Rika, but he doesn't listen. Zen and Jaehee worry that Yoosung doesn't have genuine feelings for us, but just wants us to be Rika. We end the day talking to Yoosung, but it feels more like talking to a wall. We keep telling him that we're not Rika, and we're not similar, but he keeps going, no, you're just like her. Mom, Dad, how did you two fall in love? Well, sweetie, your father thought that I was a carbon copy of his cousin. Day 7 starts off with 707 telling us about a time where he took a flight to a random island and he introduced the people that lived there to his Nintendo, and one of them ended up becoming the world champion of Tetris. Yes, you can invite them to the party. You and Jaehee discuss how you're not similar to Rika at all, and Yoosung is just seeing what he wants to see. In the morning, Zen announces that he's getting his cast taken off. You and Yoosung express worry about him taking it off so soon, but he says it's fine. He heals like a monster. I totally Mandela affected myself on this one, because I could have swore that he said he heals like a beast. And that's what I've been quoting all these years, but apparently it's monster. Maybe I was thinking of one of other Zen's quotes that he says all the time, which is, men are beasts. Then Zen lets Yoosung have it and tells him that it's really rude to compare us to Rika. He then says, how would you feel if she thought of an ex-boyfriend every time she looked at you? And Yoosung says that he wouldn't like it. This comparison really makes you realize how weird this whole thing is, because, again, Rika is his cousin. In the end, Yoosung is like, stupid Zen, stay out of this, and leaves. Jumin comes back from the winery and gifts Jaehee some alcohol. Drinking makes her talkative, so she speaks her mind about the Rika issue. She says that both you and Rika are irreplaceable people and should be viewed as such. If Yoosung can't do this, it may hurt him, and she hopes that you can help him bury Rika in his heart. Jumin tells Yoosung that Jaehee can relate to him because she lost her parents. He says that what he's feeling is normal and his scars will heal in time. Yoosung says that he needs some time to himself and leaves. That's when Seven shows up and drops a bomb on us. And I mean that literally. He explains that there's a bomb in the apartment rigged to explode and blow up all the information about past guests stored in there if the wrong person tries to access it. Well, Unknown hacked the system and made it the reverse. If an intruder enters the apartment, nothing happens. But if a member of the RFA does, boom! And there's also a chance that the place will blow up if you try to leave. You know, we wouldn't be having this problem if you people didn't force me to live in the apartment of a dead woman just to answer some emails. Also, Seven, I love you, and I know V probably told you not to say anything, but it would have been nice to know that there's a bomb in my apartment. Everyone is freaking out, and Seven rushes off to reverse the hacking. Yoosung is even more upset with V for letting this happen, but since there's nothing he can do right now, he decides to tell you that he realized it was wrong to compare you to Rika. He's going to try and move on. He thought about you for who you really are, and what he really likes about you. He wants to be someone you can rely on, so he asks you to be his pre-girlfriend and you accept. Jumin's response to this is, "Hey, Jaehee, I bet you're relieved she didn't end up with Zen." And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, come on, Jaehee. I didn't forget." Day 8 starts with Zen worrying that he has a stalker because he saw a flash outside his window. In the morning, Yoosung dresses up to look the part of your boyfriend and, oh, sweetie. No. Later, Seven announces that he fixed it so the bomb won't go off if we leave anymore, but V made the decision not to remove it from the apartment. Yoosung is even more mad now, saying that not only does V hide a bunch of things, but now he's leaving us in an apartment with a bomb. Zen says that V must have his own reasons and we should trust him. Look, I know that V isn't a bad guy, and as we'll see throughout this video, he's kind of going through it, but I'm with Yoosung on this one. I would also be pissed if this dude refused to answer any questions I had and kept hiding things, and then forced the person I like to live in an apartment with a bomb in it. Seven and Jaehee say that all V would tell Yoosung about Rika's death was that she threw herself into the ocean and her body was never found. V was the only witness and there was no evidence. Seven then vows to catch the hacker. Then he says that V is calling him every 11.36 minutes because he's so worried about the bomb situation, and we ask Seven to tell V to talk to Yoosung. V and Yoosung are in the next chat room, and it's a lot of V dodging questions and Yoosung getting mad about it. And to be honest, I can't blame Yoosung here. V is acting so weird. I would probably be pretty upset too if someone were reacting like this about the death of my family member. We do learn some things though. 1. Rika had a mental illness. 2. A lot of powerful people were at the last party, and there was a group of people after their information, which is stored in the apartment. V thinks Unknown is a part of this group. And 3. Rika is the one who requested the bomb be placed in the apartment, and she never lived there again after that. So you're telling me that Rika didn't have to live with the bomb in the apartment, but I do? After this, V rushes to Yoosung's place and, oh my god, why is he so long? He apologizes and says that he wishes he could go back and stop what happened. Yoosung then notices that something is wrong with V's eyes. The day ends with Zen confirming that he does in fact have a stalker, and he got a picture of him, and that stalker was not even trying to be subtle, was he? Anyway, then Zen flees to Seven's house. Day 9 starts with Jaehee receiving a weird email from Mintai. Zen makes it to Seven's place, and he's hard at work trying to track down the hacker. Jumin admits that he knew about Rika's mental illness because she hurt V's eyes. The world is now a blur to him. Soon he'll go completely blind, and he refuses treatment because it's how he's grieving Rika's death. Yoosung shows up at Jumin's place and begs him to try and convince V to get eye surgery again. He also asks him to send some of his security guards to Rika's apartment to protect us. Jumin says he will if he takes the kitten from before, and he agrees. Jaehee shares the weird email she got, and it says, "Our paradise, the place where everyone is happy, the magenta of dreams and hopes." Seven says that he found where the hacker is located, and he's going there to steal their information so he can figure out who they are and get rid of them for good. Yoosung demands that Seven takes him, as he wants to be able to protect us himself, and after a lot of convincing, he agrees. V promises that Seven and Yoosung will be safe, and begs everyone not to look into the hacker and try to go to where they're located. Most of the chat rooms on day 10 aren't very important. However, the visual novel modes are important. Yoosung and Seven go to the hacker's location, which is in this strange place in the middle of nowhere. They meet this white-haired boy, aka Unknown, and he's like, "Welcome to Magenta." Pretty quickly, Seven becomes distressed talking to him. He's like, "It's you. What? No, why are you here?" Unknown keeps saying that he abandoned him, and Seven insists that Rika told him that he was okay. The two go back and forth for a while, until Unknown announces that he's going to kill everyone here by blowing the place up. But Yoosung jumps in and saves the day. They're able to steal the bomb's switch and escape, but at the last moment, Unknown grabs Yoosung and pulls him away. He says that he knows Yoosung is studying to become a veterinarian, so he wants to take something from him that he knows he would need to be one. We cut back to a chat room now, and Yoosung says that he's back and everything is okay. However, back in the visual novel mode, we see Seven driving Yoosung to the hospital. He begs Seven to make sure the party happens no matter what. Back in the chat room, everyone is relieved, but Seven is unusually quiet. Now we see V with Yoosung in the hospital, and the two talk about you and Rika, and they seem to be on better terms now. It's now the day of the party. In the final chat room, Seven is acting weird and Yoosung is absent. We're finally able to leave Rika's nightmare apartment and go to the party where we meet everyone for the first time. That's where Seven spills the beans. Yoosung is in the hospital because the hacker hurt his left eye and he may go blind. What is with Mystic Messenger and blinding its characters? Everyone is about to leave the party when suddenly V arrives with Yoosung, who has a bandage over his eye. He makes a speech where he thanks everyone for coming, talks about how important Rika was to him, how he struggled with her death, and how he has found love again with us, and we've helped him a lot. He leaves the stage, and the route ends with him giving you a kiss. Wow, okay, so that route started with Yoosung confusing us with his cousin, and ended with him losing an eye. This is what I mean when I say that this game is crazier than you remember. Things escalated so quickly in the second half of the route. One minute I'm worrying my boyfriend thinks that I'm his dead cousin, and the next there's a bomb in my apartment. And this isn't even the craziest route. Some of the other routes are so insane, with so much happening, that in my memory I was like, oh, Yoosung's route is one of the more chill ones. And I mean, yeah, I guess in comparison to some of the others it is, but it isn't a walk in the park. But now it is time for us to leave our sweet sunshine boy behind and see what chaos awaits us with the narcissistic actor who heals like a monster. I don't hate Zen. I think. I don't know, it's hard to tell. Sometimes he has really good moments, but usually he just annoys me. The point is, I'm not particularly fond of him. So as you can imagine, his route is a bit painful for me. And honestly, I feel like the beginning of his route has to be painful for everyone, Zen fans included. Because I am not exaggerating when I say that day 5, the first day of Zen's route, is nothing but you praising Zen and talking about how hot he is nonstop. And he's like, oh yes, I am hot. Thank you, my darling. Other characters will be talking about something, and then you just butt in and go, OMG, Zen is so hot. I cringe every time it happens, which is all day. There are a few important things that happen on day 5, like Seven sending the most cursed cat picture I've ever seen. Zen is offered a new role in a musical where he gets to work with the super famous pop idol Echo Girl. He'll only have a few days to practice before the show starts, but he's super excited about it. Jumin thinks that it'd be a good idea for Zen to be a model of his company's new cat food. Even Jaehee thinks it's a good opportunity, but Zen declines because of his allergy. He starts to express interest in you and says that he's attracted to you. Jaehee is very obviously jealous and states that it would be bad for Zen's career if he were to get into a relationship, and warns the two of you against it. Jumin tells Zen that being talented is good and all, but he shouldn't underestimate the power of connections, and if he accepts his offer, it'll help him become even more successful. This makes Zen mad because he hates when Jumin says that Zen will be successful thanks to his money, so he goes off to practice even harder to prove to him that he can make it big without his help. Day 6 begins with Zen announcing that he hurt his ankle because he was practicing too hard. Well, that was short-lived. He goes to the hospital and gets a cast. Seven and Yoosung are upset because now Zen won't be able to do the role and get them an autograph from Echo Girl. That is until they remember that Zen heals like a monster and is always better in 2 to 3 days. Yep, we're doing this again. Despite his monster-like healing abilities, Zen isn't so sure that he'll be able to do the role because the show is only in a few days and he won't be able to practice. Then Jumin continues to be the funniest man alive.
눈앞이 흐려지네요.
Everyone starts to suggest that we should go and visit Zen to cheer him up. Well, everyone except Jaehee. She's like, nope, that's a bad idea. People will get the wrong idea about them. But I could go instead. If I take the company limo, people will just think it's for business. Jumin is like, yeah, no, you're jealous, that's not happening. Later, Zen says that he wants us to visit him, but Jaehee starts insisting that we're not trustworthy yet, which Zen is able to quickly disprove. She again starts to talk about how us dating is a bad idea because he has a lot of female fans, so he has a certain public image to maintain. Zen says that he's going to decide what his image should be. He doesn't care if there's a scandal. I think a lot of us can admit that Jaehee is pretty annoying in this route. But to be fair, she does have a point. They live in Korea, and we see this happen with K-pop idols all the time. They'll get canceled for having a partner. That being said, Zen has stated that he doesn't care, and if his fans are upset, then oh well. He'll find fans that are happy with the public image he decides on. If that's how Zen feels, then that should be the end of the conversation, but yeah, Jaehee still acts like this for a while yet. Jumin says that Zen ran away from his family a few years back, and it might be a good idea to reconnect with them so that he's less alone. Seven understands why Zen may not want to talk to his family, because he's the same way. Yoosung tries to ask about Seven's family, but all he gets out of him is that he had a brother. On day 7, Zen blames Jumin for his ankle injury. Then we see a flashback of Zen's mom wondering why Zen is so pretty. She's really mad about it, and is worried he'll want to become a musician or actor and ruin his life. Then we see a young Zen talking to his brother. He wants to know why people treat him differently, and his brother says it's because he's pretty. Zen didn't know this because his parents lied to him and said he was ugly, so he'd stay humble. Later, his parents find out that he's learning and practicing music in his free time and are mad. His brother turns against him and tells him that he'll never get anywhere doing that, and he needs to go to college and get a respectable job. Back in our time, Seven eats some goldfish-shaped bread, which inspires Zen to get some from the stand that's always outside his house. While there, Echo Girl shows up. She clings to him and says that she's a huge fan and is excited to work with him. She says she knows all about the RFA and who the members are too, which is kind of creepy. She says that she worked with Jumin once, but he would never respond to her texts after the job was done, so she doesn't like him. He tells her that he probably can't do the show anymore because of his ankle, and she says that it's fine. She had her dad make sure they're the leads, so she can just ask for more time before the show, and he can still do the role. Back in the chat room, Jumin offers the cat food modeling role to Zen again, since he won't be able to do the musical. He offers us a limo to take to Zen's house to see if he'll take the role, which does not make Jaehee happy. On our way there, we learn about Zen's meeting with Echo Girl and how she's going to adjust things so he can still do the role. We arrive at Zen's house and he's very happy to see us. Poor Yoosung had to wait until the party to meet us, but we meet Zen like right away. However, Jumin is upset because Zen accepted Echo Girl's help. Zen claims that he wants to be successful due to his own talent and not money. However, he got the role from Echo Girl because she's rich and a fan, and can keep it for those same reasons. He accepts help from everyone but Jumin, and he's offended because he's offered his assistance many times now. In person, Zen admits that he treats Jumin differently because he reminds him of his brother. Then 7 has one of my favorite intros to a chat room ever. Zen tells us about how he ran away from his home in high school due to his family treating him poorly and not supporting him. Then he sends us home because men are beasts, and he can't control himself. The date ends with Echo Girl showing up at Zen's house and being like, "Hey baby, let me in, we're gonna date." Zen tells her that he's not interested, and to leave, so she gets super mad and runs off. Day 8 starts with Unknown briefly hacking into the chat room and typing some nonsense. Zen tells the group what happened with Echo Girl. He says that he won't take the role anymore, and from now on will try to earn opportunities with his talent. Echo Girl shows up at CNR and yells at Jumin. She says that she's going to have revenge on the men of the RFA. But Jumin, the absolute icon, only cares about his missing pen and leaves. So she goes to Zen's place and sounds like she's possessed. Then we see a flashback of Rika showing up at one of Zen's shows very early on in his career and expressing how much she loves his work. She wants him to have even more roles, and wants to introduce him to Jumin to help make it happen. Apparently, Rika was a big fan, and would follow him around to all of his shows until she gained the courage to wait for him so they could meet. A little creepy, Rika, but okay. Then Zen, the monster healer, gets his cast off. Jaehee is at Jumin's house, helping him look for his pen. While there, a news story pops up on the TV. Echo Girl is claiming that the night before, Zen told her to come to his place, and he tried to harass her and force her into his house. She also spread a false story that Jumin is gay. Jumin isn't really bothered, and plans to just ignore the rumor, but Zen is going through it. Many of his fans have turned against him, and everyone believes Echo Girl's story. Zen remembers his old motorcycle. The last time he rode it was years ago, when he got into an accident and nearly died, but V saved his life by taking him to the hospital. When he asked why V was there, he said that he liked to follow Zen around and take pictures of him. A little creepy, V, but okay. A bunch of haters are standing outside Zen's place and yelling at him. He pushes past them all and takes off on his motorcycle. V calls Jumin and expresses that he's heard the false allegations and he's worried about Zen, so Jumin decides to go after him. He figures Zen is at his secret place. This is where the two first met, and Jumin offered to pay for his acting school or to help him get into more shows, but Zen declined. Jumin arrives and the two have a really nice heart-to-heart. Jumin opens up about his family, and Zen realizes that Jumin never had ill intentions. He trusted him and wanted to help him. Zen admits that the RFA feels like his family. Jumin offers a modeling job for his father's teacup company, but Zen says that he wants to do the cat food job, and he's going to do the best job he can. So now Jumin and Zen get along! Yay! When Zen gets back, there's a bunch of gifts and letters from his fans there, so he still has people that believe him. Jumin and 7 team up to save Zen's reputation. 7 is going to dig up dirt on Echo Girl to prove Zen's innocence, and Jumin is going to set up a press conference for him right before the party. Oh yeah, I did forget that the point of this game is to host a party. That night, Zen decides to call his family. Things aren't 100% better between them, but it's a step forward. Day 10 starts with Zen having a dream where Unknown goes to Rika's apartment and kidnaps us. Now you may be thinking, Morgan, Zen doesn't know what Unknown looks like. Yeah, so Zen has prophetic dreams. Like, it's not just a coincidence, and he's not crazy. He actually canonically has prophetic dreams, and this ability of his will be important in other routes. So then we talk to 7, and he's like, uh-oh, problem, the security system in Rika's apartment has been hacked, so the whole bomb problem that happened in Yoosung's route is happening again. So once again, everyone is freaking out over there being a bomb in the apartment, and Zen is like, oh my god, my prophetic dream, someone's going to try and kidnap you. He wants the address to Rika's place, but 7 says that he can't give it out without V's permission, and he's currently MIA and not responding to calls. But he is watching us through the security cameras. That's great and all, 7, but you can't really save me from a kidnapper by watching me through security cameras. Yoosung goes to 7's place to search for more dirt on Echo Girl for the conference, while 7 works on the bomb issue. He's able to turn the bomb off for now, but that's when Zen shows up and demands that 7 gives him the address. He resists, saying that he needs permission from V, but Zen doesn't relent. Back at the apartment, a window breaks and, oh hello Unknown! He tries to kidnap us, but Zen breaks in and saves the day. He takes us back to his place and informs the group of what happened. 7 is shocked that Unknown came in through the window because the glass is bulletproof and the apartment is on the 14th floor. No, but for real though, how did he get in? They never explain it. Yoosung announces that he discovered evidence of Echo Girl being a huge fan of Zen on social media and found a witness that saw what happened, that being the goldfish-shaped bread stand guy. Later, V arrives at 7's place. Oh V, you look so happy and innocent right now. You won't be soon. He goes to the RFA chat room and gets absolutely wrecked by Zen for being MIA and letting us stay somewhere so dangerous when he and Seven wouldn't even let Rika stay there. V reveals that he's going blind and apologizes, but Zen says it's going to take a long time for him to trust him again. I know I'm not really a Zen fan, but go off, King. I like V, but Zen is so right. That night, Zen says that he loves you and you smooch. You stay the night at Zen's house because clearly Rika's apartment is not safe. The day ends with V looking up at the sky, saying that if he has to give up his life to protect everyone, he will. And then you don't see V for the rest of the route. Oh, V, if only we could go back to a few hours ago when you were so happy. On day 11, we go to the party with Zen. He has his press conference where he explains what really happened with Echo Girl, presents the evidence, and talks a bit about his past. Everyone is now starting to realize the truth. The press conference ends with Zen saying that another reason he could never do that is that he already has a woman that he loves, and he could never look at anyone else. He introduces the world to his girlfriend by rushing to us and admitting his love. The end. Weirdly, Yoosung's route felt way more intense than Zen's, and we don't even meet Yoosung until day 11. A lot of Zen's route is him being sad over his role. Then he gets cancelled, which is kind of crazy, but still doesn't feel quite as intense as Yoosung's. Then day 10 happens. Day 10 is easily the best part of this route. We've got one full day of game left, and the bomb is just now getting introduced, and we nearly get kidnapped. I'm not much of a Zen fan, but I was like, yes, come save me, Zen! Things amped up insanely quick, but we've only got 2 routes down. There's a lot more crazy to come. Jaehee, I know we didn't get along very well the last few days, but let me make it up to you in your route. So this is the one and only platonic route in Mystic Messenger. You're not romancing Jaehee, you're trying to be your bestie. I guess Chariots stated that's what they wanted, a friendship route that's different from the others. Okay, that's fine, but if you're going to say that the relationship with Jaehee is platonic and never make her dateable, then why make art like this? Or this? Or this? Or this? Need I go on? This doesn't look platonic, Chariots. I don't do this with my friends. I feel genuinely bad for Jaehee fans because I know there's a lot of people out there who would like to be able to romance her, and Chariots just teases them. So I actually only ever played Jaehee's route once back in 2016, and when I finished it, I was like, wow, I'm never playing that route again. The reason? I found her route to be super boring. Now, has my opinion changed after finally revisiting it? No, not at all. It's still really boring. I mean, I literally fell asleep during one of the chat rooms. So this section of the video might not be quite as long because there really isn't much to say about each day. The other reason I never liked this route is because it feels like Jumin is out of character in it. And before you're like, oh Morgan, you're just biased because he's your favorite. No, I'm not. The first time I played this route, Yoosung was still my favorite because I hadn't unlocked Jumin's yet, and I still thought he was out of character. And I've seen a lot of other people say it too, okay? I'm not going to deny the fact that Jumin gives Jaehee too much work, because he does. But compare Jumin in other routes to this one. In other routes, he's never malicious about it. He's just kind of like, I just got the best idea ever. I have to make pancakes for cats. I'm starting right now. And Jaehee's like, Mr. Han, are you sure? This doesn't seem like a good idea. And he's like, of course it is. The cats will love it. In Jaehee's route, he still does this, but he's also like, Jaehee, I need you to do all this stuff, and I need you to do it now, or else you're worthless, and I don't care about you at all, and if you mess up, I will destroy you. And it's just like, what? He's usually just a silly businessman who's really smart, but also a little dumb because he's like, I'm just gonna do this cat business and no one can stop me. And when people say he shouldn't, he's like, I don't get it, but I will take that into consideration. Thank you. He's not a malicious person. I love how I said Jaehee's section is probably going to be short, and yet here I am rambling. On day 5, Jumin is mad at Jaehee because she forgot to book a plane ticket for his yearly trip to the cherry farm, where he picks cherries because Elizabeth III likes the smell of them. The ticket gets booked, so Jumin drops Elizabeth off with her, and away he goes. The rest of the day is pretty much just everyone being like, poor Jaehee. And then they start talking about how she needs to get into a relationship soon because men are going to start thinking she's too old. This conversation sure hits different now that I'm the same age as Jaehee. Anyway, that's literally it for day 5. On day 6, Zen breaks his ankle yet again. Jaehee is super worried, but Seven says it's fine because, come on, say it with me everyone, Zen heals like a monster. Jumin's father wants to start a coffee franchise and has pawned the project off to Jumin's team so that he can spend time with his new girlfriend. We haven't really discussed it yet, but Jumin's dad loves women. And ever since Jumin was little, his father has had a new girlfriend practically every month. Anyway, this means that Jaehee will have more work to do, which she isn't happy about. But Jumin tells her to just do the bare minimum so that they can give the project back to his dad. This route has been really boring so far, so they introduced the hacker problems early. Seven noticed that we might have a stalker, as he's seen someone lingering around Rika's apartment on the security cameras. He's also noticed evidence of the apartment's security system being tampered with, but for some reason he doesn't mention the bomb this time. Jumin sends bodyguards to all the members to protect them, and V arranges for us to have some too. Now, clearly we are the ones in the most danger here. The security system has been hacked, and there's a stalker outside our house. But for some strange reason, no one cares about us. Everyone is really worried about Zen. They're like, oh no, what will happen if he gets attacked? He can't move well right now because of his ankle. Guys, he has bodyguards. And did you forget? He heals like a monster. He'll be fine. Jaehee wonders if she should go there to protect him. Everyone encourages her, including us, and off she goes. You know, you were very against this in Zen's route, Jaehee. She arrives at his house to help him, and she works all night. On day 7, we see a flashback where Jaehee has to move in with her aunt and uncle after her parents died. Her uncle is very welcoming and accepting, but her aunt is a total hag, who is like, why do we have to take care of her? She should live on her own. I don't want to be responsible for her. Ma'am, she's 14. She can't live on her own. Jaehee runs a meeting about the coffee franchise, and she does very well because she's actually very interested in the work and coffee as a whole. Jumin is very stressed because he has a lot of work to do. He says that in times like these, starting a business he's passionate about makes him happy. He decides to start a cat hotel and needs a presentation on it from Jaehee in a few days. When he's told that Jaehee is already very busy, he says it's fine, and he plans on the coffee project getting moved to another team anyway. Jaehee goes back to Zen's house to cook for him, and she stays there all night working again. Seven discovers that the hacker is from some group called Mintai. V tells Seven to contact them. He does, and Mintai demands to speak with V, so they can tell him what they want with the RFA, and he agrees. At night, Zen tries to encourage Jaehee to pursue what makes her happy. He asks Seven to make the slides for the cat hotel presentation for Jaehee. The price for the favor is that Zen has to pay for all the gas in Seven's fancy cars. On day 8, Jaehee tells Seven not to make the slides, but he's like, nope, I'm gonna do it anyway. And I'm also going to hack CNR. And he changes Jumin's desktop background to Longcat, which Jumin actually loves. V asks Seven to drive him to Mintai. Seven asks him if he knows the people here, and V not so subtly dodges the question. Inside, V talks with Unknown, who is like, hey, you lied to the RFA that Rika unalived herself. Wow, they confirmed that a lot sooner than I remembered. Unknown says that he wants the members to join Mintai, and he'll only leave them alone if V disappears and fakes his death and joins the organization himself. Then we cut back to the chat room where Seven says that V talked things out with the hacker, and he'll leave him alone for now. Well, that was anticlimactic. Zen gets his cast off, and Seven suggests that he buy Jaehee a gift to thank her for her help. Jumin says that Jaehee did too good of a job on the coffee report. He wants her to redo the report, but make it not very good. You see, Jumin's father is only starting the business because his new girlfriend wants to run a cafe, so he's planning on gifting it to her when it's done. Then we see a flashback where Jumin is upset because he lost another of his assistants because they ran off to date his father. He wants to hire a male assistant to avoid this, but V picks out Jaehee's resume and suggests her. Jumin is impressed and picks her. Zen shows up to Jaehee's house to give her a hand mill for making coffee. She breaks down and cries to him about how unhappy she is with her job. Is it just me, or does this feel more like a route for Zen and Jaehee than us and Jaehee? Everyone encourages Jaehee to pursue what makes her happy. It's day 9, and Jaehee and Zen go out for lunch together. Hey, I'm supposed to be the important one here, not Zen! Also, when is this route going to get interesting? It's time for the cat hotel presentation, and Jaehee uses 7 slides, which are of course chaotic. Jumin is not happy about any of it, but mostly the part where the mascot for the brand would be Longcat instead of Elizabeth III. This leads to Jaehee quitting, and Jumin realizing that he gave her too much work, and this is all his responsibility. Also, Seven tricks Yoosung into believing there's an expansion pack for his game buried at his college. So Yoosung goes to dig it up, but instead there's just a picture of Rika's dead dog that Seven buried there. This makes Yoosung sad, but motivates him to keep working towards becoming a vet. So, good for him, I guess. On day 10, we reach the best part of the route. There's a chat room titled Revenge with Jumin and Seven. Basically, Jumin is like, hey, Seven, I'm coming to your house to steal your car. Now, here's a fun fact about Jumin. He can't drive. When he is behind the wheel, he is a danger to society. He has a driver that takes him everywhere. So Seven is freaking out and rushes out to his garage to find that Jumin is already there, and he speeds off with one of his cars. Later on, he crashes it, and the damage is so bad, I don't know how he survived. After that, he's like, I'm all better now, and pays for the damages. And no one really seems to care that this happened either. They're just like, aw, Jumin really valued Jaehee, and he's sad that she's leaving, so his emotions went haywire and he did this. How nice. I am obsessed with this man. Why did he do that? That evening, V shows up to Jumin's house and is like, hey, so I need you to take over the RFA because I have terminal liver cancer. And Jumin is like, V, you idiot. What the hell? I'm not dumb. Why are you lying to me? You don't have cancer. And V is like, look, I have to go be with Rika. Did anyone else expect this route to end with V faking having cancer? How did we get here? It's the day of the party, and Jumin pulls us aside. He says that since we were able to help Jaehee, maybe we could help him. He vaguely mentions the V situation and wants to know what he should do. We tell him that he should be by his side and support him. He's about to ask us to be his new assistant, but then Jaehee gets on the mic and asks us if we'll be her business partner and open a cafe with her. And that's Jaehee's route. I feel bad for her fans because that route is a whole lot of nothing. And it felt like Zen did more for her than we did. The highlights of this route was Seven hacking Jumin's computer, Jumin stealing Seven's car, and V faking a terminal illness. And none of those have anything to do with Jaehee. But hey, thanks for spicing things up, boys. But the last 4 routes of this game are all really interesting and the most insane, so we've got lots of good things to come. The next route is my favorite, the best boy. But before we get there, we have to go through the deep story common route, which focuses on Jumin and Seven. Day 1 is exactly the same as Casual Story, so we're skipping straight to Day 2. Unknown says that V is a fake, and he's going to invite the RFA to the real party. Jumin wants to start a new cat business, and Zen and Jaehee say that he's a selfish jerk, who doesn't care about anything but himself. Seven is working hard to find out who the hacker is, and why they brought us to the apartment. He also shares that he has a maid, named Mary Vanderwood III, who occasionally shows up and cleans his whole house. Seven sends a picture of her, but it's just him dressed as a girl. Zen falls for it though. Seven wants to mess with someone. Jumin enters the chat, and Seven is like, hey, do you like women? You never had a girlfriend. Oh my god, you're gay. This obviously annoys Jumin, and he leaves. Yoosung is like, there's no way Jumin has never had a girlfriend before, right, Jaehee? And she's like, little boy, how would I know? However, she does say that Jumin tends to avoid women because of his father, Chairman Han. He's a womanizer who always has a new young girlfriend every few weeks. He's also still legally married to Jumin's stepmom, so he's also a cheater. They conclude that for Jumin to be in a relationship, he would need to find someone who understands him. On day 3, Jaehee reminds Jumin that he's supposed to have lunch with his father today. This upsets Jumin, so he distracts himself with a cat business. Seven reveals that he has a huge supply of the super rare honey butter chips, and eats nothing but that all day. At lunchtime, you chat with both Jumin and Seven. Jumin is still out with his father, but he's only paying attention to his new girlfriend, the famous celebrity Glam Choi. So Jumin is in the messenger instead. Then we get one of my favorite Jumin moments. I don't care what anyone in the RFA says. That man is funny. Now Zen and Jumin are in the chat room, and Zen is super hostile. He's like, oh, Jumin, you were born with a silver spoon, so you don't have any problems in your life like we do. I guess the only issue in your life is your dad and his billions of gold-digging girlfriends, and that's not a real problem. If you tell Zen, hey, maybe don't bring up such a sensitive issue. He's like, everyone knows it, so it's not sensitive and I can talk about it. What the heck? Then Zen gets mad when Jumin doesn't say bye to him. Bro, I wouldn't say bye to you either. Yoosung wants to know how Seven got all of his honey butter chips, but he refuses to tell him. Instead, he tells Zen, but it's a very long explanation. To make a long story short, for one of his jobs, he got paid in honey butter chips instead of money. V makes an appearance in the chat room. He doesn't have a date for the party set just yet, but he does talk to Jumin, and we get to see how they're close childhood friends who know each other very well. On day 4, Yoosung tries to trade his Lay's chips for Seven's honey butter chips, and Seven is like, no, you idiot. We see a flashback of Rika being like, I need a way to delete everything. Well, we all know her amazing solution is a bomb. The paparazzi caught a photo of the lunch Jumin had with his dad and Glam, and it ends up in an article. Jumin mentions that Seven's real name is not actually Luciel. That's his baptismal name, and he legally changed it to that a while ago. The only one who didn't know this is Yoosung, who is very shook by it. Jaehee asks Seven for his real name, and he's like, nope. And she's like, okay, I actually didn't care that much. Seven says that hackers are dangerous, and you should never ask about their pasts. Jumin went on a business trip to a grape farm to make a deal on new wine. This gives him the brilliant idea to make wine for cats. Zen is like, hey, don't talk about cats in the chat room. I don't like it. And I don't like it when you constantly talk about your looks and post selfies in the chat room, Zen. Sometimes we don't get what we want. V is back and announces that the party will be in 1 week. Day 4 ends with Unknown hacking into the chat room saying, I will corrupt you. And that is all for the deep story common route. I know it probably looked like I was being biased and mostly talking about Jumin stuff, but I swear I'm not. I love Seven too. It's just that his whole role in the common route is literally just, I can't stop eating honey butter chips. But for the next section of the video, I will let my bias take over. It is time for my favorite route, all about my favorite boy. Jumin Han. Oh, that man. He's one of those characters that just raised my standards for men. He's one of those characters that I constantly wonder, Why aren't you real? I will forever and always love him with all of my heart, and he will forever and always be one of my favorite Otome boys. So I will try my absolute best to not go overboard talking about his route and his character, because that is not the point of this video. But I am just going to quickly get a few small things out of my system. A small part of the fandom likes to portray Jumin as a hot, kinky, Christian Grey type of man. But he's not. He's a sweet, soft boy who will praise the ground you walk on. Some people think that he's a crazy madman who keeps you locked up against your will. But he's not. He's experiencing emotions for basically the first time in his life and is trying so hard to control it all. He's terrified that the one and only person who understands and loves him is going to be hurt, so you willingly stay at his place and help him work through it. Some people say that he's sexist and hates women. Also, not true. Every woman he's ever been around has been a nasty, horrible gold digger that tries to use him and his father. The only exceptions to this are Rika, Jaehee, and the MC. And Rika is wackadoodle, so we're removing her from the list. The only normal women in Jumin's life are Jaehee and the MC. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. I could go into full Jumin character analysis, but I'm not going to. Let's just get started with his route. Day 5 starts with Seven informing us about the message from Unknown that we saw the night before. He says that the hacker is dangerous, and right now, Jumin should send bodyguards to all the RFA members to make sure they stay safe, and since we're at Rika's apartment, Seven and Mary Vanderwood are going to watch over the CCTV to make sure nothing happens. Yeah, because that worked so well in Zen's route. In the morning, a woman shows up to Jumin's place, and she's like, "Hey, I'm Sarah, and I'm your fiancé." And Jumin is like, "No, you're not. I'm going to work. Bye." While trying to fight off the hacker, Seven sees an article that says Chairman Han is preparing to divorce his wife. Then Zen and Jumin have a very productive conversation. Jumin says that there was a woman in his house this morning claiming to be his fiancé, and everyone is just like, "Oh, Jumin, you're so crazy. You hallucinated that." Glad to see we're taking it seriously, guys. Chairman Han wants Jumin to have dinner with him and Glam. There, he says that he's planning to officially divorce from Jumin's stepmother, that he's been separated from for 2 years now, so he can marry Glam. Then, the two ask Jumin to marry Glam's student, Sarah. If he does this, CNR will be able to buy Sarah's company, Sugar Round, at a lower price. Jumin is highly offended by this and leaves. Then we finally get to see what Chairman Han, the ladies' man, looks like. Yeah, they're definitely after the money. And Jumin definitely got his looks from his mom. Jumin rushes to the chat room to ask us for advice on the situation and then leaves, as he feels he's being too emotional. Everyone is quite confused by the chairman's decision, as Jumin works very hard for the company, so he shouldn't be forced to marry someone to buy a no-name company. On day 6, Jaehee discovers that the one who contacted reporters about the Chairman Han divorce article was none other than Glam Choi herself. Jaehee decides to start digging up information on her and Sarah. Then we see a flashback of all the women Jumin encounters in life trying to use him and his father for their money, including his own mother. Jaehee announces that Jumin stopped all cat-related businesses to focus on the rest of the company, since he's worried about dropping stock prices with all the rumors about his father. Zen shows up, and anytime you and Jaehee try to talk about what's going on with Jumin, Zen is like, can we talk about me instead? I'm more handsome than Zeus, guys. I'm so hot. Anyway, he got a new role, which is playing Jisoo from Dandelion again. He's told the character is obsessive, and he decides to use the way Jumin acts with Elizabeth as reference material. Zen uses Jumin as reference material throughout the whole route, which I find weird. Like, Chariots, do you even know your characters? Because Jisoo and Jumin really aren't alike. In Jisoo's route, he's a super toxic, abusive jerk. And outside his route, he's a total dumbass. Jumin is not like him. Watch my Dandelion Let's Play if you're curious. Jumin is holding a meeting when Chairman Han shows up with Sarah and is like, "It's fine, she's gonna be part of the family soon so she can hear all this confidential information." Jumin is like, "No, she's not. I'm canceling the meeting." The chairman says this is for Jumin's own good. Jumin calls him out for being a womanizer, and he's like, "Oh, that's not very nice. Oh, boo-hoo, get over it." In the chat room, Jumin explains that when he was young, whether he was good or bad, everyone still treated him nicely because of his status. This made him believe that emotions were meaningless, so he stopped expressing them. The only one who was ever nice to him because he loved him, and not because of his status, was his dad. He loves his dad, but this whole situation is upsetting to him. After opening up about these complicated feelings, in the very next chat room, Zen and Seven make fun of him. What the heck, guys? That night, Glam and Sarah show up at Jaehee's house to interrogate her on whether or not Jumin already has a girlfriend. Seven tells Yoosung if he still wants honey butter chips, he can come to his place tomorrow. Day 7 is the grand return of Zen's prophetic dreams. You didn't forget about them, did you? He has a dream where he's at Mintai, and Elizabeth III is there looking sad. Jumin doesn't believe in Zen's prophetic dreams, but it does make him start to think that Glam and Sarah might kidnap Elizabeth to force him into the marriage. He skips work and goes to buy a cage for her. He puts her in the cage and talks to her. He says that he never really saw her as a cat, but as someone who truly understood his complicated feelings. He realized that Elizabeth is just a cat, and she doesn't actually know what he's thinking and feeling. He wonders if he deserves to be with her. Jaehee is upset that Jumin never went to work. Seven suggests that you should go to meet Jumin to cheer him up. Jaehee goes to Jumin's place to try to get him to come to work. Jumin starts talking about how there's a ball of thread in his mind that keeps getting more and more tangled. He felt that Elizabeth could see those tangles, but at the end of the day, she's just a cat. Jaehee is like, okay, never mind, you're going through a lot. I'll tell everyone you're on sick leave. Jaehee asks us to go and see Jumin, since we seem to understand him better than anyone. On our way there, Yoosung finds an article going around that says Sarah and Jumin are engaged, which was obviously spread by Glam. Then he heads to Seven's place for the chips. We arrive at Jumin's, and he's very happy to see us, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't stop staring. Ah! He says that seeing us made him instantly feel better. Since it's late, we decide to stay the night there. Zen throws a major fit about this in the chat room and is like, send her home! You have to leave! You can't be alone with a man at night! Jumin says that he's going to be a gentleman, and we say that we trust Jumin. But he's still like, no! Send her home! We're both adults, Zen. Chill. Also, I stayed the night at your place in your route. Then Jumin says he's gonna make us pancakes in the morning as a thank you, and oh my god, I need to chill. This is not the point of the video. Jumin reads a book to us that Rika gifted to him. He hasn't opened it since she died. He expresses that he feels that we'll be able to help him untangle his mind. Yoosung arrives at Seven's place. Seven gives him chips and tells him that he can use any of his computers to play games. They'll be going somewhere together, so he can hang out until then. On day 8, Jaehee discovers that Sarah has bad credit, meaning her business Sugar Round is likely doing terribly. She and Zen both express that they know you're both adults, but you and Jumin better not make the wrong decision. They also hope that since we made Jumin feel better, he'll come back to work first thing in the morning. Well geez, I thought he was on sick leave. He didn't even get a day. There's a flashback of Jumin and Rika. She says that he seems lonely and he needs more people to trust than just her and V. She decides that she's going to gift him a cat so that he can have a special friend. Then Jumin enters the chat room and oh... Why isn't he real? You decide that you'll watch over Elizabeth to make sure no one tries to take her while Jumin is at work. He opens the cage to show you how to feed her. The security arrives so that Jumin can introduce him to you. At that moment, Elizabeth runs out the door. She's now missing and Jumin goes off to look for her. He's unable to find her, so he puts out a bunch of missing ads. He gets back to the penthouse and feels awful. He believes that he was a bad owner for not treating her like a cat, and that's why she ran off. You promise to stay at his place while he's feeling so upset. But then Sarah shows up, claiming to have found Elizabeth. The two of you decide to hear her out. She forces her way inside and is like, ugh, Jumin, who is this woman? Is she a hookup? And he's like, just tell me what you know. She claims that she found Elizabeth. She holds up a picture and... I'm sorry, that is the weirdest looking cat I've ever seen. Jumin is like, okay, Sarah, I know you just want money. What if I write you a check? And she's like, oh, okay. I'll call off the marriage then. And Jumin goes, got you. That was a trick. She throws a fit and is like, I refuse to leave. Jumin walks up to us and smooch. Sarah's like, ah, how could you do this to me? And runs off. Yoosung is still stuck at Seven's house and is wondering when they're actually going to leave. Jumin says that when he finds Elizabeth, he's going to give her back to V, since he doesn't think he deserves her. He says that he never needed a cat, he needed a special person, which is us. Zen is back to being like, you need to escape. And Seven is the voice of reason, and says, they're adults and they like each other, it's fine. That night, Jumin says that he can't imagine a life without us right now. He's a bit unstable, so we agree to stay while he deals with feeling all of his emotions for the first time, like, ever. Also, Jumin says that he wants to protect us, and he's worried about the ongoing hacker situation that everyone else still has bodyguards for, plus Sarah and Glam might try something. He wants us to wait to go back until these issues are resolved. Again, we agree. He's not holding us hostage. We're not being locked up. He even says this. We agree with him. And do you want to know what happens if you act like you're being held hostage and leave? You get a bad ending where Unknown breaks into Rika's apartment and blows the place up and you die. So yeah, Jumin is right. His place is safer. He does need to protect us. This is the point of the route where the RFA is like, he needs to send you back to the apartment. Why? Rika's apartment isn't even my home. I'd rather be with Jumin. Plus, if I go there, I will explode. This is also when everyone insists that I need to go back to Rika's place to prepare for the party, and the party won't happen if I'm not there. What are they talking about? I don't need to be there. I'm just responding to emails, which I'm still doing from Jumin's place. Plus, spoiler alert, in both V and Ray's routes, I planned the entire party from Mintai, so clearly I don't have to be at Rika's apartment to do it. So can everyone in the RFA please kindly shut up? Why does everyone want me to live in the bomb apartment so badly? Seven is finally ready to leave. He and Yoosung are off to the hackers HQ to stop them. Zen flips out that you're still at Jumin's, and Jaehee decides to go there to make sure that you're okay. How many times do I have to tell these people that I'm fine and I'm here of my own free will? Jumin doesn't let Jaehee in because he's too busy having dinner with us. He also says that we can work on the party together and see how far along things are. Oh, look at that! I'm working on the party just fine from a bomb-free apartment and I have some help now. On day 9, Seven and Yoosung arrive at Mintai. Seven tells Yoosung to stay put while he goes and takes their data. He says that if he's not back in 5 hours to leave him. Yoosung is worried, so he tells Yu and Zen where he is. Zen is like, hey, is it a weird castle in the mountains with a green roof? Yoosung says yes, and Zen is like, oh my god, that's the place for my dream. Yoosung sends a picture, and yup, there's Elizabeth. He goes and gets Elizabeth, and surprise, there's Unknown. So yeah, he had kidnapped Elizabeth, and they never explain how. Elizabeth runs out the door, and poof, she's gone. Did he lure her out with fancy cat food or something? And how did he not show up on any of the security cameras taking her? Unknown is an enigma. He can make cats disappear and plow through bulletproof windows on the 14th floor. Seven shows up and tells Yoosung to run for the car. Unknown goes into pretty much the same spiel that he does in Yoosung's route, where he says that he was abandoned, and Seven is like, oh my god, but Rika said you were okay. Yoosung shows up with the car, and the two drive off. It's a good thing Seven keeps bringing Yoosung with him, because he saves him every time. Jumin goes to work and meets with his dad, who has just been shown some of the information on Sarah's credit that Jaehee found. This makes him trust Sarah a little less, but he's still like, oh, but I want Glam to be happy. Jumin tells his father that he's met someone and fallen in love, and Chairman Han goes, hasn't it occurred to you that you're only rejecting Sarah because you love someone else? Yeah, that's how it works, you idiot. He's not going to marry her when he's in love with someone else. You're nearly there, Chairman Han. You're like this close to getting it. Jumin asks if he's going to drop the arranged marriage, and he's like, nah. Jumin tells Jaehee that he's going to need the rest of the information she dug up. Then he's like, by the way, thank you for all the hard work you did. And she's like, then in the chat room, he's like, oh yeah, Jaehee, I'm giving you a vacation. Let me know what days you want. And she's like, woo! Meanwhile, Yoosung is back home and struggling to take care of Elizabeth. Seven announces that the hacker is all taken care of, but he's obviously not himself and very sad. Jumin comes home and thanks us for staying by his side while he organizes his thoughts. He says we're warm and soft, unlike Rika. Did you guys hear that? We're unlike Rika! Yeah! He decides that it's safe for you to go home now, and as long as our hearts stay with him, then we can be physically apart. He'll make sure that we go back home safely after we have lunch together tomorrow. However, despite all this, he still plans to give Elizabeth back to V at the party. Day 10 starts with Jumin being super romantic. There's a flashback where Rika tells him that her dog dying has made her want to create a world where everyone can be happy. They're all going to leave this place and be happy. And he's like, okay, weirdo. Seven is back being sad in the chat room. He can't get a hold of V to ask him about what happened at Mintai, and he's really struggling. This worried Jumin, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna ask V to make sure that you'll be safe at the apartment before I send you back. And don't you dare say that he is paranoid, because he is right. You know what happens if you go back to the apartment right now? Zen still freaks out though and is like, you're dangerous! But we're like, okay Zen, we're going back to flirting. Jumin calls V and he refuses to give a straight answer about us being safe at the apartment. So Jumin is like, okay, what the heck? I can't send her back when V is being so sketchy. And again, he is right. You know what happens if we leave? Jumin decides to invite a bunch of reporters to the party. He also invites his father, Glam, and Sarah, and tells them he's going to make things official. V shows up at Yoosung's place, takes Elizabeth, and leaves. This upsets Seven, who's like, V is ignoring me, please call me. V arrives at Jumin's place with Elizabeth. Jumin still thinks he doesn't deserve her for not seeing her as a cat, but Yu and V are able to convince him that he's a good owner. V promises that we'll be safe at Rika's place, and this time it's actually true. We won't die if we leave. We say goodbye to Jumin and head back to our home sweet bomb-partment. Well, at least I can flirt with Jumin in the chat room. I'm never going to find a man like him. The day ends with someone visiting Unknown. It's very obviously V. Unknown says that since he's there, he won't blow up the apartment. V, were you lying to me? Was I not safe at first? Is it only because you're there right now? Once again, Jumin was right. On day 11, in the chat room, Jumin says that he's going to give Yoosung the reward money for finding Elizabeth, and he promises Seven that he's going to have V talk to him privately at the party. So Jaehee gets a vacation, Yoosung gets a bunch of money, Seven gets to talk to V, and we get to live happily ever with Jumin. Everybody wins in this route. Well, except for Zen. Oh well. Everyone arrives at the party, including Glam, Sarah, and the chairman. Jumin makes a speech in front of the reporters, where he talks about someone who made him realize what love is, and helps him a lot. Everyone thinks it's Sarah, until he reveals he's talking about us. Sarah flips out and runs on stage, which is a mistake because Jumin reveals her bad credit, her and Glam's arranged marriage plot, and then he drops the huge bombshell that Sarah is actually Glam's sister who she made get plastic surgery. The plan was for Glam to make the chairman fall for her so she could convince him to have Jumin marry her so-called student that she cared so much for. So yeah, the chairman finally knows the truth and the girls are busted. Everyone starts taking pictures of you and someone is like, hey, V, maybe you should get out of here. The flashing lights have to be bad for your eyes. But V is like, no way. this is good stuff. I have to see what happens next. Same V. Jumin walks up to us, gets down on one knee, and asks if we'll be his life companion. Yes, I do! Yes! And that is the end of Jumin's route. It's so good, and after all these years, it's still my favorite. But now comes the hardest part of every otome, leaving behind your one true love to do another route. No, Jumin, I don't want to leave you. It pains me, but unfortunately, I must. It is time to move on to the Defender of Justice, 707. Okay, before we start this route, there's something important that I must do. Transform! Ta-da! Yeah, I cosplayed Seven back in the day, so I thought it would be fun to wear the jacket and the glasses for this part of the video. And I'm not going to put on the rest, because I don't look good as him anymore, and, I mean, the wig is a mess. I can't even tell where the front is anymore. Anyway, for Seven's route, we're going to have to talk about the actual route, as well as the secret endings that take place after it, in order to get the full story. Now, Seven's route is rather slow-paced. A lot happens in it, but there's a lot of build-up that takes a while. Like, most of the big stuff doesn't happen until the secret endings. So for this route, I'm not going to go day by day like I did the others. I'm just going to tell you the story in the best way I can. So the route starts off with Seven warning everyone about Unknown hacking into the messenger again and sending them bodyguards. He expresses that since he can't send any to Rika's apartment, he wants to go there and protect you himself, but he's unable to since he's busy with his usual work hacking for the agency. He promises to watch us through the security footage instead. Again, that really didn't work out too well in Zen's route. We see Seven's place, and Vanderwood arrives. It turns out Vanderwood is not a maid or a girl. He's actually a member of the agency that watches over him and his assignments. Seven is unable to concentrate on his work at all because of how worried he is about you. He obsessively watches the security footage, looks into who the hacker is, and makes a robot dog that spits out fire to protect you. He realizes that the fire is actually pretty dangerous and decides that he should make a robot cat instead that doesn't spit out fire. Everyone suspects that the reason he's unable to concentrate is that he's very worried over you and has feelings for you. He denies this over and over again. He says that even if he wanted a relationship with us, he couldn't because his work with the agency is dangerous and he's not allowed to have friends or family, which is why he goes by 707 and Lucielle, neither of which are his real name. He could disappear at any moment. Meanwhile, there's this whole side plot going on where Yoosung is being his usual game-addicted self, so Jumin calls his mom and tells her about it. She shows up at his house and makes him clean up the place. She cooks with him and makes soap, and Yoosung is throwing a major fit about it. I don't know, personally, I wouldn't mind cooking and making soap with my mom. Yoosung is really mad at first, but by the time his mom leaves, he really misses her and realizes that he was wasting too much time on games, and he needs to start moving forward with his life. He's been stuck since Rika died. That's great and all, but I want to know what Yoosung told his mom when she showed up and there were a bunch of bodyguards there to protect him. Back to the main plot, all of the members get an email from Mintai inviting them to join Magenta. Seven tracks it and is able to find the location of the hacker. However, Vanderwood tells Seven that he has to finish his work for the agency before he deals with the hacker. Their client is really dangerous and has wiped out entire agencies for being 1 minute late before. Vanderwood is aware that Seven is part of the RFA, which isn't allowed at the agency. He threatens to tell the boss about it if he doesn't finish the job. But when Vanderwood steps away, Seven notices that someone messed with the security system at Rika's apartment. He freaks out and rushes to come save us. I see you learned from your mistakes in Zen's route. Good job! Vanderwood informs the boss that Seven ran away, so he tells him to finish the job and then go after him. Seven makes it to the apartment just as Unknown breaks through the window again. This time around, he mentions that he got in by propelling down through the roof, so we finally figured out how he got to the 14th floor, but we still don't know how he went through the bulletproof glass. And we never will. Anyway, Unknown makes an attempt to kidnap you, but Seven stops him. The two have the usual conversation, you abandoned me, and I hate you. No, Rika told me you were okay. Before arriving, Seven turned the security system back on, which recognizes Unknown as an intruder, and he's forced to leave so they don't all die. Seven tells you that was his twin brother, Saeran. He doesn't know what happened to him, but he asks you to keep it a secret from the rest of the RFA. Seven decides to stay in the apartment with you from now on while he continues to gather information on Mintai, but he's not his usual self. He's actually very mean to you and is constantly pushing you away and yelling at you. He says that the 707 in the chat room isn't the real him. He's a dangerous hacker who can't have any relationships, so you need to stay away from him. In the chat room, he says that once he catches the hacker, he plans on leaving the RFA, and all the members mean nothing to him, which really upsets Yoosung. At the apartment, Seven briefly opens up and shows you a floppy disk that Rika sent him several years ago of Saeran happy and healthy. However, after his argument with Yoosung, he grows even more cold and distant. We see a flashback of young Seven and learn that he and Saeran are the sons of a popular political candidate who is always trying to track them down and eliminate them so that the public doesn't find out they exist. Their mom was an alcoholic who was always abusing them, tying them up, and depriving them of food and water. Of the two, she treats Saeran worse because of how sickly he is. Seven has less of her attention, so he's able to sneak out pretty often. He gets a book on hacking and tells Saeran that he's going to learn how to do it so that he can earn a lot of money and they can escape together. When he goes out, Seven meets V and Rika at a nearby church. The two look after him and want to help the twins escape. V tells him that he can get Seven work with an agency as a hacker. They'll give him a new name and make him untrackable so that both of his parents won't be able to find him. However, he'll have to leave Saeran behind. Seven is very hesitant about this, but V promises that he and Rika have a plan to get Saeran out shortly after, and this is the only way they can be safe. In the present day, V enters the chat room, and instead of addressing anything that's going on, he's like, "Hey, Seven, don't open the drawer in Rika's apartment." This makes Seven mad, and V's like, "Oops, that was dumb of me to focus on that. Sorry." Seven is over V though. He says that he doesn't trust him anymore and wants to know what happened to Saeran, but V loses service before he can say anything. Then we finally break through to Seven, expressing that we love him and want to know the real him, even if he's dangerous. He decides that he's not going to be mean anymore, and now you're a cute couple. Yay! The two of you decide to defy V and open the drawer. There are a bunch of documents about Mintai that show that Rika was involved with the formation of the organization. You both make the decision to go to Mintai to stop the attacks on RFA and save Saeran. When you arrive, you run into Saeran pretty quickly. Seven tries to tell him the truth of what happened, but he doesn't believe it, saying that he'd be dead without the savior, and she told him the truth. Seven shows him the floppy disk to prove that he's not lying, which causes Saeran to freak out and run out of the room, locking you both inside. We see some flashbacks of Saeran being locked in a cell and the members of Mintai giving him drugs to brainwash him over and over again, so he'll think that his brother and V are bad. They do this in the name of the savior. Oh yeah, remember Vanderwood? Well, he finished Seven's work and tracked him down to Mintai. He sees Saeran and is like, "Okay, Seven, you're coming with me. I'm taking you to the boss." And Saeran is like, "What? I'm not Seven, leave me alone!" But Vanderwood thinks that Seven just tried to disguise himself and takes him anyway. For a secret agent, Vanderwood is not very smart. Surprisingly, V witnessed the whole thing. You and Seven make it outside and run into him. V tells you about Vanderwood, which sends Seven into a panic because the agency will have him killed. Then Seven says some really harsh things to V. Okay, that really hurt me. Like, once you play through the secret endings and the another story routes and know everything about V, what Seven said becomes so much more brutal. So the actual route ends with the other members having the party, while you and Seven go after Saeran. I want to let it be known that I was still answering emails from Mintai, and Jumin takes over most of the party planning once we leave with Seven. Crazy. It's almost like you don't need to be at Rika's apartment to plan the party. Seven steals all the information from the agency and threatens to release it if Vanderwood doesn't release Saeran. Then he asks you to call him by his real name, Yoosung, and the route ends with a smooch. But that is not the end of things. Let's dive into Secret Ending 1. It starts with you and Seven meeting up with Vanderwood, who is holding Saeran hostage. The agency is surrounding them and prepared to take them all out. Seven strikes up a deal with Vanderwood. He tells them that no matter what, the agency is going to kill all of them now for knowing too much. If he comes with them, Seven will give him a new identity so he can be free of them and live his own life. Vanderwood agrees, and the four of you drive off. However, the agency starts shooting at them, and one of the bullets hits Seven in the arm. They make it to an abandoned cabin in the woods, where they plan to hide out for the night. Saeran says that he wants fresh air, and for some dumb reason, Seven lets him step outside. Yoosung, sweetie, I know he's your brother, and you care for him, but consider the situation. That's not a good idea. As soon as Saeran steps outside, he contacts Mintai and tells them where they are. In the morning, they arrive to kidnap them, but the one leading the group is V, who has now gone completely blind. He takes you to the leader of Mintai, the savior, Rika. Yeah, Rika never died. She's been alive this entire time, running a cult where she brainwashes and abuses her believers. What a swell gal. There's a lot of flashbacks of V and Rika. We see them meeting at one of V's exhibitions, where Rika tells him how much she loves his pictures. The two go out for coffee afterwards, and the rest is history. They fall in love and get engaged. However, Rika's mental health is quite bad, and she refuses to see a therapist. V tries to help her by loving her unconditionally. He says that he will love her no matter what she does. His love does not cure her though, and after her dog dies, she decides that she wants to create a world where everyone is happy. Basically, she wants to start her creepy cult where she saves everyone. V is against this idea, which upsets Rika. She grows angry with him and abuses him. She can't stand his loving eyes looking at her anymore, so she blinds him. She leaves to start the cult, and V tells everyone that she died. Rika's ultimate goal is to bring the members of the RFA to Mintai and make them members to prove V wrong. At some point, without V knowing, she took Saeran, trained him to be a hacker, and brainwashed him. Now, V blames the whole thing on himself and wants everyone to hate him. He insists that Rika is still a good person. V, honey, I'm sorry, but she started a cult where she brainwashed and abused people. She's not a good person. Rika has you, Seven, and Vanderwood locked up, while she meets with V privately. It turns out that he's disguised himself as a believer for a while now to gather information on Mintai. He revealed himself now in hopes that she'll become satisfied with destroying him and leave the RFA alone. This doesn't work, and he gets locked up along with the others. Luckily, he has a phone and is able to send the coordinates of where they are to the RFA. Jumin leaves immediately in a helicopter with security guards. My man is coming to the rescue! Rika brings them all out and holds a ceremony where she plans to make them official members of Magenta, and they can have an everlasting party. That's code for drugging them. Saeran starts to freak out. He's upset that Seven is going to be a member when Rika promised him that he wouldn't be. She promised that he could have revenge on him. Rika says that Seven is the better hacker, so he'll be staying. She tells her believers to take Saeran to be brainwashed some more, but Seven steps in front of him to protect him. However, he ends up passing out from the blood loss of his bullet wound. Saeran freaks out even more, saying that this is all V's fault. He takes out a gun and shoots him. V lays on the ground dying. He tells Rika that he'll always be with her, like the sun. He takes his final breath and Rika freaks out. Girl, it's your fault he died! At that moment, Jumin and his men arrive. We cut to the chat room. It seems that you, Seven, Jumin, and Jaehee are the only ones that know the truth of what happened. You all decide to keep it a secret from Yoosung and Zen, telling them that V ended his own life and Rika ran off in the woods 2 years ago and has been living in hiding. They all attend V's funeral and are really broken up about it. Outside, Yoosung sees Rika, who is suffering from aphasia. She's unable to speak due to witnessing a tragic event. She looks at the sun and is happy because V is with her. So that's the ending of Secret Ending 1. Remember when our biggest problem was Yoosung thinking of us as his cousin? Now said cousin is revealed to be alive and running a cult, and V is dead! Moving on to Secret Ending 2, Saeran is in the hospital and the doctors are unsure of what to do with him in his broken mental state. He's always lashing out and yelling, especially when Seven is there. We see a lot of flashbacks of him as a kid. After Seven left, his mom tied him up and deprived him of food and water. He thought he was going to die, until V and Rika showed up, pretending to be Child Protective Services and telling his mom that she has to send him to school. They take care of him when he leaves the house, but Rika pulls him aside and starts to teach him how to hack. Later, we see a flashback of Rika brainwashing Saeran and telling him that his brother and V are awful people who will hurt him. Most of Secret Ending 2 is Saeran struggling with his mental health. He has conflicting thoughts about his brother. For so long, he was told that Seven would hurt him. Meanwhile, Yoosung is taking care of Rika, who is unable to speak, and Jumin and Jaehee are being total badasses, arranging for Saeran to stay in the hospital without anyone looking into it, ensuring all of the believers receive proper treatment and are sent home, and preparing an investigation on Rika. Saeran attacks his therapist, and the hospital prepares to transfer him to the psych ward. Seven doesn't want this to happen, so he breaks Saeran out and takes him to his place and takes care of him there. Saeran tries to kill him, but he can't bring himself to do it. Seven apologizes to him and promises to always be there for him, finally breaking through the brainwashing. Zen's prophetic dreams are back. He sees Jumin, Jaehee, and a bunch of security showing up to take Rika away. He goes to Yoosung and insists that they send Rika to a mental health facility in Alaska and keep it a secret from Jumin and Jaehee. At this facility, they spend a lot of time in nature and are constantly changing locations, so there's no way to track Rika down. So she's not going to face any consequences for her actions. Awesome. Saeran is in the chat room now, and he's acting normal with his brother, which is cute to see. Seven invites everyone to his place for a party to celebrate him proposing to you. It ends with this super cute picture of everyone. I know that our main characters in Saeran ended up okay, but this ending still kind of feels sad to me. Maybe it was all the angst that led up to it, or the fact that Rika will never face any consequences for what she did, or that V died. If only there was a way to go back in time and save V and Saeran before things got too out of hand. Wait a minute, we can do that! So when Mystic Messenger first released, those were the only routes in the game. But the fandom craved more. They wanted V and Saeran routes. And a year later, Chariots delivered. The V route was released. Now, at first, I was against a V route because it didn't make any sense to me. I thought that V was so obsessed with Rika, there was no way he would ever want to date us. But then it was revealed that the route would take place only a few months after Rika's death. And that changed my mind. If we go back in time before V is too far gone, it's not unrealistic to think that he would fall for someone else. So the V route released, and I was excited to give V the love he deserved. But honestly, the one I fell for during this route wasn't V, but Saeran. By day 3, I was head over heels for him, and he'd become my second favorite character in the game. I wanted nothing more than for him to have his own route. And once again, Chariots delivered. A few months after the V route came out, the Ray route was announced and released. Now, I'm sure if you haven't played the game, you're probably like, Morgan, his name is Saeran, not Ray. Yeah, I know, I'm sure that's confusing, but we'll get there later. For now, we're going to go through the common route, which we're going to go through similar to how I did Seven's route. So it begins with you downloading the Messenger app and talking with Unknown, much like before, but this time he tells you that you've actually downloaded a game that he created, and he wants you to test it for him. You agree, and he asks for your location, and you give it to him. A car arrives and the driver asks you to get in and put a blindfold on, which you happily agree to. Okay, we were reckless in the prologue of the other routes, but we really have no self-preservation in this one. We are willingly getting kidnapped. We arrive at Mintai, which of course we don't know is Mintai, and meet Unknown, who is calling himself Ray. He tells you all about the game you'll be testing for him. You'll be dropped into a chat room with a bunch of realistic AIs he made. The plot of the game is that you'll be a party coordinator for a group called the RFA. He says that the AIs are programmed to be suspicious of us at first, so we should tell them that Rika asked us to host parties to gain their trust. We also can't tell them that they're AIs, this is a game, or anything about our current situation, or it will lead to a bad ending. We agree, and Ray tells us that we are free to explore the floor that we're on, but don't have permission to go anywhere else. We also get a glimpse of V, who is sadly standing by Rika's grave, and dang, he got a new look! He's not long anymore. Anyway, we get dropped into the chat room, and wow, V is actually there! They take notice of us, and we tell them what Ray told us to say. They're more suspicious of us than normal, with Rika's death being fresh, and also because Seven isn't able to find any information about us. And we're unable to tell them who we are due to the rules from Ray. Ultimately, V decides to let us stay because of what we said about Rika. Most of the common route is the RFA members chatting with us, while we think they're AIs, and they think we're suspicious. Well, except for Yoosung and Zen. Those two actually trust us and think we're good. Behind the scenes, Seven and V are trying to look into who we are. Ray frequently hacks the chat room to talk to us or comes to our room. He asks our thoughts on the game and his characters, and often talks about how much he hates the V and 7 AIs. He encourages us to find the secrets they're hiding and earn their trust so there can be a party. Aside from that, Ray's actually really sweet to you. This is how I fell for him so hard and so fast. I mean, he looks and acts princely. I'm staying in this fancy room, and every time he's on screen, this song plays. This song is actually my favorite on the entire OST. It makes me a little mad because the title of the track is Mintai, and it's considered to be Rika's theme, and I hate Rika. I know Ray/Saeran has his own theme that's really good, but I will forever associate this song with him. Anyway, Ray actually falls for you really quickly. Throughout the common route, he talks about how you're always on his mind, you make his heart feel ticklish, he's so happy you're there and want to help him. We even hear that Rika is telling him that he's focused on us too much. He says that he really likes you and wants you to become an official resident of the building as soon as possible. If you ignore the fact that you're actually in a cult and Saeran is in the early stages of his brainwashing, talking with him literally feels like a fairy tale. The fact that when the V route first came out, you couldn't date him felt like an actual crime to me. Anyway, Ray hacks Seven's personal drive and leaves a message saying to hold a party. V believes that something bad will happen if they don't hold one. He also thinks that you're being used and don't know it. He disguises himself as a believer and enters Mintai. There, he's able to gather information on the cult, like how the members seem to be brainwashed and turned into a completely different person. He also happens upon Ray, who is on his way to bring flowers to us, and begins to wonder if we're here, caught up in all of this. V tells the RFA that they will be holding a small party soon, so everyone should start recommending guests to us, as he's concluded that we are safe, but won't tell anyone why. Now, there were definitely some weird guests in the other routes, like Longcat, but the guests in Another Story are actually insane. The RFA is suggesting guests such as Pluto, a bowl of udon, a vampire, the sea language. This is going to be the weirdest party ever. Also, I am planning this entire party from Mintai. I did not need to leave Jumin's place. Speaking of the RFA, let's talk about what the rest of them are up to. Zen is his usual narcissistic self. He disappears for an entire day to the spa, and I literally didn't even notice he was gone until the other members pointed it out. Oops. Jaehee honestly isn't up to much of anything. Sorry girl, they gave you a boring plotline again. Seven is busy trying to figure out the identity of you and the hacker, but he's also busy trying to sell his own brand of energy drink, 7 Star. Jumin has a lot of nice conversations with V, showing how deep their friendship is, and we even get to see some pictures of them as kids. He meets up with V's dad for a business deal, and suggests that they should all have dinner together, but V reveals that he and his dad don't really get along, and it feels like there's a wall between them. Aside from that, Jumin is just so adorable in Another Story. Like, I didn't think it was possible for him to get any cuter and funnier, but it happened. He's become obsessed with books on vampires, he wants to cosplay as V, he discovers that if he turns his head at a certain angle, Elizabeth III will jump, and he sends this great picture. A lot of the bizarre party guests are suggested by him. And now for the final member of the RFA, Yoosung. We see a flashback of V telling the police about how Rika died, and Yoosung is there. V tells them about how he woke up on a rainy day to see her outside, walking towards the cliff near their house. By the time he ran out there, she had jumped. He actually gives a lot more details than that, and honestly, if I didn't know the truth, I would have believed it. I didn't find the story to be weird at all. But Yoosung freaks out and says that there has to be more to it than that. And again, I know the truth. But there's really nothing in that story that justifies the hatred Yoosung has for V that lasts years. And I understand Yoosung is grieving, but he is a bit frustrating to deal with in this. He is constantly telling V that he didn't do enough to stop Rika from jumping, and that it's his fault that she ended her life, which is just a horrible thing to say to someone. The others are always trying to help Yoosung, but he blows them off. For example, Zen offers for him to come over so they can drink and share memories of Rika, but Yoosung flips out on him and calls him a jerk for treating him like a child. I understand Yoosung is grieving, and I do like him, but the way he's acting really isn't okay. But eventually, Saeran decides to hack into his computer and download Lol Lol onto it. Yoosung plays it and is able to relieve his stress and forget about Rika. Back to the stores of the route. Ray takes us for a walk in the flower garden at night, which is just so sweet, and I feel like I'm in a fairy tale. V happens to see us and now knows for sure that we're being used and involved in something bigger than we realize. At the end of day 4, Ray prepares the elixir of salvation for us so that we can begin the process of becoming a true member. He's very excited, but also fears that you'll push him away and hate him. V overhears all of this and knows that he has to save us. From here, there will be a visual novel mode that will go differently depending on which route you ended up on. Now, as much as I want to be with my sweet Ray, we must first give V the happy ending that he deserves. Now, I will admit, I did clown on V a few times throughout this video and make fun of him for being so long. I've even criticized his actions. But make no mistake, I am a V supporter. I really like him and feel so bad for him. Has he made some bad decisions? Yes, but it was never malicious, and he was doing what he thought he had to protect the RFA. V is a victim, and he's one of the most tragic characters in this game. He deserves a happy life with a good partner by his side. I mean, it's not gonna be me, because I'm by Jumin's side. So it's up to you, V fans. Give him the love he deserves. So the route really begins at the end of day 4, when Ray is trying to give us the elixir of salvation, but V comes in and is like, "Oh, Ray, you're needed somewhere else." Ray isn't dumb though and makes V take the hood down and is like, "Oh my god, you're V." And we're like, "Oh my god, you're not an AI." Ray freaks out and accidentally breaks the elixir. He calls for more believers and V is forced to escape, but not before promising that he'll save us. Ray is having a mental breakdown about how V ruined everything and we won't trust him anymore. The savior told him to tell us the chat room is a game so that we could host the party and she could save all of the people that show up. Okay, Rika. Good luck brainwashing a bowl of udon. Ray sends us back to our room and says that another elixir won't be ready for a few days. He then starts attacking the messenger and trying to remove us, which Seven has to work hard to prevent. On day 5, V tells the chat that we are 100% trustworthy and we were caught up in this. He explains that we're being held hostage by the hacker and he's going to save us, but that's all he can say since the hacker is monitoring the chat room. He also sends Seven a device that has his location, but he has to decrypt it with a word to open it. If he can't decrypt it, it'll automatically open in a week. Basically, he wants to try and solve things himself before he has to get the others involved. But Seven is determined to open it himself and guess the word. Later that day, all the members have creepy pictures delivered directly to their houses. They're all of V and Rika and have words like liar written all over V, or his face is completely cut out. Jumin realizes how serious the situation is, so he decides to create an intelligence unit to help Seven and puts Jaehee in charge of it. The pictures really freak out Yoosung, so he goes to stay with Zen. He continues to accuse V of being responsible for Rika's death and complains that he didn't grieve properly. Jaehee tells him to knock it off. V decides to tell the RFA that he's been so secretive for the last 6 months because he's been investigating Rika's death, and this hacker situation is related to that. Speaking of Rika, she makes her first appearance while talking to Ray. He's expressing how sad he is that V ruined his relationship with you, and he's scared you'll hate him. Rika says that she's interested in you and wants to meet. We also get a series of flashbacks spread throughout the whole route that start on day 5 about V's mom. Since they're so spread out, I'm just going to explain it all to you now. V's mom was a famous violinist. After having V, she lost her hearing and became completely deaf, so she had to give up her career. His dad became ashamed of her and wanted nothing to do with her, and forced her to live alone, separate from the main house, so V rarely saw her. His dad, who is a wealthy businessman, raised him to only care about business, consider art to be a waste of time meant for fools, and to hate his mother. But one day, Jumin tells him that he should try talking to his mom. V starts seeing his mom in secret, and she tells him that he should try painting. He does, and he loves it. One day, his mom submits his work to an art contest without telling him. V gets really mad, saying that art is pointless, and Dad will be really mad. He cuts off contact with his mom completely. Later, his house catches on fire. His mom runs inside, saves him, and dies in the process. V feels a lot of regret about what happened with his mother. He wants to try painting again, but he's scared. Jumin suggests that he should start off with something like photography until he gains the courage to paint. In the present day, on day 6, Seven is still trying to figure out the word V would have used to decrypt his location. He thinks it must have been something to do with Rika. Jaehee remembers a time when Rika seemed different when talking to her, and she mentioned something about mint-colored eyes. Seven decides to use variations of this phrase. It unlocks with the word Mintai. Seven is able to look into everything about the cult. He even hacks into their surveillance cameras and sees Rika, and he's like, okay, yeah, I see why he hid all this. At Mintai, Ray brings us to Rika. She says she wants us to stay with her for a few days. She takes us on a walk in the garden when V shows up and tries to save us. However, this was all part of her plan. A bunch of believers show up and drag him away. V is able to quickly type into the chat to not trust Rika. Seven shows the group Rika on the surveillance and says that she was the one who had V kidnapped, and you confirm this. Despite the eyewitness accounts and evidence that Rika is involved with a cult, Yoosung refuses to believe it. He's like, no, it can't be real. Even if she did that, she's not a bad person. How could you say that? I bet the hacker is forcing her to do this. You, the one who is a hostage and witnessing everything, say, no, I think the hacker actually needs to be saved too. She's doing this. And Yoosung is like, no, sorry, Rika would never do that. What do you mean? She just did! I need to try and be more sympathetic to his situation. We're still stuck with Rika, and she tells us that there was a devil inside of her, telling her to do bad things. She eventually realized that this darkness was just another part of her. She wanted to embrace it, but was afraid that V's light would kill her darkness. His love was too much. On day 7, the Saeran intelligence unit and Seven learn more about Mintai, Rika, and their illegal activities. Seven is able to figure out that V is being held prisoner underground, and makes the decision to go there and save us. Meanwhile, Ray is asked to give V some of the elixir. V asks him why he's going by Ray. He says that Rika told him that's his name when he's a good boy. There's a bad version of him that he tries to keep asleep. V continues to call him Saeran and says that he needs to save us. This upsets Ray, and the bad version of him, aka Saeran, aka Unknown, comes out and forces V to drink way too much of the elixir, to the point that he passes out. Ray emerges again and is like, oops. Back in the chat room, Yoosung is like, oh, I'm so jealous of you. You're with Rika right now. Yoosung! She's holding me hostage in her cult while she's trying to brainwash me. He says that he's not going to believe anything we say until he sees Rika himself. He's having a major I can fix her moment, and it's all, I want to talk to her and see if she could be that way in front of me. He begs everyone to let him go, but of course the answer is no. Rika takes us down to the imprisoned V to basically just be like, hey, this is all your fault. I'm like this because of you. Also, I don't care about you. V is kind of going through it from having too much of the elixir though, and just keeps saying that we have to escape. He also admits that he realized something. He never actually loved Rika. He was just obsessed with her. Rika starts freaking out about this and is like, no, don't say that. You loved me. It was an obsession. You have to love me. Girl, 2 seconds ago you were saying that you didn't care about him and this is all his fault. During her rambling, she says, so no one has ever loved me? I can think of one guy who loves you a little too much. Seven shows up and is able to help us sneak away with V while she's freaking out. Day 8 begins with Seven updating the RFA about everything that happened. Guess what Yoosung's response is? Nope, I didn't see it, so I don't believe it. Why would we lie to you? Sympathy, Morgan. Sympathy. He yells at Seven for not bringing Rika with us so that we can talk it out. Sympathy. It turns out that V is poisoned from taking too much of the elixir, and we can't go to a hospital because we may be tracked. Instead, we head to a hideout, and Seven calls Vanderwood, who apparently knows how to remove poison and treats V. Seven says that the messenger is no longer secure, so he kicks everyone and shuts it down. However, Ray made a copy of it and is able to add himself and Rika to it, but he only has the ability to invite us, V, and Seven. From this point through the end of day 9, these are the only characters we could talk to. In the visual novel modes, we stay by V's side and support him, while Seven and Vanderwood work on fighting Ray to gain control of the messenger. In the chat rooms, Rika keeps trying to tell everyone to join Mintai. She also keeps trying to convince V that he really did love her, but V disagrees. He has realized that he was obsessed with her and thought it was love. He felt horrible about his mother and not being able to paint. Then Rika came along and he thought that he could make up for it by painting her with his love. He does keep trying to sacrifice himself to Rika though. He wants her to torture him so that she'll be satisfied, but we convince him to look after himself for once, and that won't be enough to satisfy her. Ray briefly loses his fight to the other him, so his attacking becomes more sloppy. This gives Seven a chance to get the messenger back. That night, now that he feels better, you go outside with V for some fresh air. He thanks you for staying by his side, helping him change and break free of Rika. You hug him, and he admits that no one, not even Rika, has hugged him before. He sends you inside first, and Rika appears. She's like, you fell for her. Love me again. Please, my darkness can't thrive without your light. I need the shadow. Love me again. V's like, no. So Rika goes, fine, then die, and stabs him. But then she's immediately like, wait, no, you can't die. Please don't die. Then why did you stab him? Day 9 ends with Seven giving back access to the other RFA members due to the V being stabbed emergency, but he was unable to kick Ray and Rika, so they can talk to the members now. On day 10, we discovered that the CNR intelligence unit was able to learn a lot about Mintai, and they were able to confirm that Rika is the founder. In the chat rooms, Rika admits to it all and more, like stabbing V, kidnapping random people she thought needed to be saved, and that the dark side of her always existed, she just hid it from them. She tries to convince all the members to join her, But after everything they've learned, they're like, no, Rika, screw you. And this is when we get my favorite Jaehee moment in the entire game. Iconic. Now, of course, there is Yoosung, who is like, hey, maybe I can convince the other members to let you back into the RFA. Can you imagine being kidnapped by a cult leader who brainwashes her believers? Who poisoned and imprisoned the man that tried to save you? Who hunted you down and stabbed that man that she abused in the past? Who went on to try and convince your friends to join her cult? And while you were at the hospital with the man she stabbed, her step-cousin goes, I can convince everyone to let you in our group again. Yoosung, sweetie, I understand she was important to you, and you will always have a special place in my heart, but my sympathy is gone. Someone needs to slap him upside the head. Jumin arrives at the hospital, and the two of you decide to tell the doctors to fix V's eyes while he's here. Back at Mintai, Ray evacuates all of the believers and then blows the place up while he's still inside. At the same time, Rika returns to her apartment and blows it up. On day 11, everyone assumes that both Rika and the hacker have died, so they decide to cancel the party. So you're telling me I don't get to meet the bowl of udon? All of the guests at the party are very upset it was canceled at the last minute. But who was there to smooth things over? Rika! She's like, oh, sorry for the inconvenience. I'm gonna give you all some wine to take home with you. Yoosung arrives and realizes that all of the wine is drugged. The elixir is in it. He stops everyone from taking it and tells Rika that he's now finally realized that she's not the Rika he knew. Finally! Thank you, Yoosung! Jumin's men take her away, and we cut to the hospital where we're with B. He says that he wants to try painting again, and he wants to learn to love again. We jump forward 2 years to an RFA party. All of the members, except for V, are there. We learn that he's been traveling the world in painting for the past 2 years. All the members wander off, and we hear a voice from behind us. It's V! He's happy, an artist, and ready to try love again. He confesses his love to us, and that's the end. However, this is one of those routes where the after ending is kind of a necessity. It picks up right where the good ending left off. He announces that there's going to be a new member of the RFA, and surprise, it's Saeran! He's alive and has broken free from his brainwashing. He and Seven have a heartfelt reunion. I am so happy that Saeran is okay. Like I said earlier, I fell way harder for Saeran in the V route than I did V. So I was so upset when he blew up Mintai while still inside. Not to mention, the V after ending didn't release for a long time. So for ages, I thought he died. Anyway, then we jump forward 5 more years. You and V are happily married and have an adopted daughter. The end. It feels so good to see V alive, healthy, and happy. He finally got the good ending he deserves. But now I must go live my fairy tale romance with second best boy, Saeran. Now, I know I literally just said I was going to live a fairy tale romance with Saeran, but his route is actually anything but that. It's super angsty and sad. It begins on the end of day 4. Ray says that he wants you to be an official member of Mintai, so you can stay with him, but he doesn't want you to take the elixir because it's extremely painful. He tells you to lie and say that you've taken the elixir when you really didn't. He takes you on a walk in the flower garden where he admits that the RFA are real people, and he tells you the Savior's goals. He also tells you about how happy you make him, and you're the only person that's ever trusted him and accepted him for who he is. Then V shows up and is like, I guess I can't save you if you want to be with him. And Ray is like, it's V, go away. V tells you about how Seven is Ray's brother before leaving because Ray is so freaked out. Day 5 starts with V asking Jumin to start the CNR intelligence unit to help lighten Seven's workload. Rika tells Ray that he's a useless coward that's too lost in his feelings for us and she'll help him become stronger. This is how Rika always talks to Ray. So throughout the route, he tells us he's sorry for being so pathetic and useless and an airhead, and we probably hate him, but you always assure him that's not the case. But the more we assure him and say that he's doing his best and we like being around him, the more he likes us. So Rika keeps giving him more elixir. But on a side note, Yoosung sees the 7-star drink being sold in stores. On day 6, Rika shows up to our room and is like, hey, you're making Ray weak in the heart. Stop that. In the morning, Jaehee is looking for V. Apparently, the Prime Minister reached out to CNR to arrange a meeting with V. He wants to buy some of his photographs. He's done business with CNR before, and knows Jumin is in the RFA, and can get in contact with V. Now, this is concerning because the Prime Minister is the father of the twins that's always trying to kill them. Meanwhile, Jumin starts stitching, and it's super adorable. V meets with the Prime Minister and is like, yeah, sorry, I'm not selling any of my photos right now. Seven is rightfully freaking out and worrying for him and Saeran's safety. Back at Mintai, Rika forces more of the elixir on Ray and tells him he's going to ruin everything. He's now taken so much elixir that he's developed a fever. Zen gets a new role in a musical that's basically Jekyll and Hyde, but the game calls it Zekyll and White. He's really struggling to play the part of White, so he wants Yoosung to come over and help him because he's a depressed and emo little boy. Now, Yoosung drove me nuts in V's route, but he is amazing in this one. He goes over to Zen's and starts cosplaying as Jumin to bring out Zen's dark side and starts acting like him in the chat. He forces Zen to eat the weird dishes that he cooks. He's also just really understanding of everyone, including V in this route. It's a complete 180. I'm so glad to be loving Yoosung again. Ray delivers us some fake elixir to keep on hand in case we're forced to take the real stuff. You meet him outside and he's crying about how useless he is, and he doesn't deserve to be near you. No matter how much elixir he takes, he can't stop thinking of you. You stop his self-deprecating talk with a kiss. He gets all blushy and runs off. What a cute little guy. On day 7, V goes to Seven's place and gives him data he collected on the Prime Minister that they can use against him just in case. In the chat room, Ray's like, "Hey, so does that mean you like me?" And you say yes. And he's like, "Yay, I really like you too. What a cute little guy." You start to tell him that maybe you two will be better off somewhere else. You're trapped there and Rika is treating him terribly. Rika walks in on Ray being like, "Hee hee, I love the MC.
Lay.
She's like, "Alright, that's it. You need lots of brainwashing." The Prime Minister goes to V's place and is like, "Hey, I want to give a special award to the RFA for all you've done. Tell me the names of all your members." V tells him everyone but Seven, but the Prime Minister's like, "Is there anyone else? Please tell me. I want everyone's name on the awards. Tell me." Wow, he is not subtle. V says there's no one else and declines the award. Seven tells everyone that the hacker is acting differently. Uh-oh. Ray shows up, but now he's going by Saeran. He's acting totally different and says that the useless Saeran is gone. He starts to yell at us, call us useless, say he doesn't know what Ray saw in us, and tells us we stink. Starting on day 8, he's super mean in the chat rooms, but it's hard to take seriously when he has his own emojis. Saeran came out and was like, "No way am I using those cutesy Ray emojis." We see a flashback of Rika using the elixir to brainwash him, splitting him in two. She says that the angry, devilish, mean Saeran is his true self, not the weak, kind him. That version of himself should be called Ray, and he's a useless boy that will never survive in the real world. Saeran is strong, and will survive on the darkness and hatred inside him. Yeah, I'm sorry, I find Rika to be unforgivable. Zen gets called in by the prosecution, and they ask him all about Seven. Everyone else thinks it's related to his job as a hacker, but V and Seven know that it's actually his father trying to get to him. V decides that with everything going on, it'd be best to postpone the party. Saeran continues to torture us, deprive us of food, and say we stink. Stop saying I'm smelly, it's mean. Rika says that now that there won't be a party, we have no use, so she should get rid of us. Saeran is like, "No, she's fun to mess with." Rika says, "Hey, are you sure Ray isn't still in there? You don't like her?" And Saeran is like, "No." The day ends with a flashback of the day Saeran's mother died. He feels pathetic and useless because everyone abandoned him, and he just wants a chance to be loved. On day 9, Saeran shows up to mess with you. He pretends to be Ray and comes close to you, but you push him away. This causes Ray to come through, and he apologizes for what the other him has done to you. He explains that Ray was never supposed to exist. He was Saeran, but Ray was created by combining all of his weaknesses. He states that both Ray and Saeran are scared before running away. Now Saeran is acting a bit off, and Rika is pissed about it. She wants us out and starts threatening our life. Like, I think she wants us dead. V sneaks into our room and brings us food. Yes! V to the rescue! He explains everything about Rika, the RFA, the Prime Minister, etc. Saeran starts to get sad that he won't be able to see you after Rika gets rid of you. He visits your room, but when he tries to be mean like usual, he sees flashes of his mother doing the same thing, which freaks him out. He says that when he's not with you, things feel pointless. His head hurts and he runs off. He runs into V, who tries to undo his brainwashing by telling him the truth about himself, Seven, Rika, and more. It seems to have an effect on him, because that night, he visits your room and explains that it meant a lot to him that you never gave up on him, and that he can hear Ray inside of him, and knows how much he cares for you. He says that he will leave, and Ray will come back. But it'll really be like the two of them joining, to become the true Saeran. At Seven's place, Vanderwood shows up held at gunpoint. He was forced by the agency and the Prime Minister to lead them to Seven. So now Seven is kidnapped, which sucks. On day 10, V decides that he should tell everyone about the truth about the twins, minus the Rika stuff. Everyone is freaking out, but they want to do what they can to help Seven. Rika taunts us and is like, "Haha, I gave Saeran more of the elixir, so he'll be under my control again." However, he wakes up as his true self. He's immune to the elixir now. He's like, "Yeah, Rika, all you do is hurt and abuse people because you're afraid of being hurt like your parents hurt you. Bye." And Rika is like, "No, that's not true, blah, I save people, blah." Saeran escapes with you. He thanks you for everything you've done for him, says that he loves you, and oh, look how cute, look at this boy. Too bad we can't stay like this though, because we have to run away from the crazy cult. You and Saeran get into contact with the CNR intelligence unit, and hello, Jumin, looking good. You come up with a plan to release the info V found on the Prime Minister, detailing his crimes, the information on the twins, and that Seven was kidnapped. Meanwhile, V goes to Rika at Mintai and is like, "I realized my mistake. You needed me to accept your dark side. I will do just that from now on. And Rika is like, yay, you love me again. V, no, what? Wait, you were doing so well on this route. What are you doing? On day 11, the RFA holds a press conference where Zen announces all of the information about the Prime Minister. We jump forward a week, and it's huge news. The RFA and the twins are now famous, and everyone is on the hunt for the Prime Minister and Seven, who have been missing. The RFA visits the twins' childhood home, as there was evidence that the Prime Minister and Seven were hiding there for a while. You and Saeran step outside. You still have a long way to go to find Seven, but he thanks you for everything, and professes his love for you. The route ends with V and Rika breaking into the twins' home and burning it down. V, please stop. How did you get here? This is by far the worst path he's taken in the entire game. Obviously, this is not the end. Much later down the road, Saeran got his own after ending, which is even longer and more crazy than Seven's. So basically, it's 2 weeks after the good ending. Saeran is officially part of the RFA now. They all meet up at CNR to discuss their plan to find Seven. However, V shows up and knocks everyone out with a strange gas. V, why? I love you. Why are you doing this? Saeran is immune to it thanks to his time at Mintai. V tells him that he made a deal with his father to get Seven back, and he should accept, and then he leaves. You wake up pretty quickly thanks to Saeran telling you to hold your breath, but the rest of the RFA is going to be out for a while. We learn that the agency Seven is working for has been working for the Prime Minister this whole time, so they're aiding him in the capture of the twins. We see Seven being tortured by both his dad and the boss of the agency. They're staying in Rika's apartment, which V and Rika gave them access to. You and Saeran go there to try and save Seven, but when you get there, Seven is like, no, you have to run, and he enters a deal with the boss and Prime Minister to keep you and Saeran safe. He'll go on video and tell the world that everything the RFA said is a lie, and act as a puppet forever if they leave you two alone. The Prime Minister and boss agree, so Seven goes on TV saying that he's not actually his son at all, and the crimes were all a lie that he fed to the RFA. The agency also manipulates the media into saying bad things about the RFA. It turns out that the one who invested in the 7-star drink was Jumin's dad, and since Seven's been kidnapped, he's been donating the proceeds to orphanages. Between the agency's manipulation and what Seven says, the public thinks CNR is actually pocketing the money, and RFA did this to boost their careers. Before you leave, Vanderwood is like, hey, I'll help you. So you meet up, and he basically says that you and Saeran have to split up. He sends Saeran somewhere where he thinks he's going to save Seven, and then he takes you to a place you're supposed to be safe, but actually delivers you to a house where Rika and V are staying. Vanderwood is like, yeah, sorry I tricked you. I didn't want to, but I'd die if I didn't. They have Seven there too, who is knocked out because they keep giving him the elixir. Their plan is to use you to lure Saeran there, and then kick you out. Rika wants the four of them to be a happy family. They made a deal with the Prime Minister that the twins would occasionally come out and help with his campaign and say good things about him if they got to live there and have a happy family forever. This is just so messed up. Like, Rika and V were supposed to protect these two from the Prime Minister, and now they're in some weird deal with him, the one person they were supposed to protect them from, all because Rika wants to have some happy family. I'm so disappointed in V in this route. Seven wakes up and tells us he's going to try and save them by hacking the agency with his phone, but V overhears and confiscates it. V, we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Zen and Jumin wake up, and Jumin is forced to resign thanks to the 7-star scandal. Saeran gets in contact with him, and they form a plan. Saeran arrives at the house, and Rika immediately chains him up and slaps him. I am really getting sick of this girl. Saeran tells you his plan. Tonight, he's going to distract V and Rika. Vanderwood will show up and help you escape with Seven, but he will have to stay there and will likely be killed by his father once he shows up and sees Seven is gone. You try to convince him to find another way, but he insists it's the only way to save you both. He also says that he doesn't want to spend what time he has left being hateful, so he decides to be nice to Rika, and this somehow heals her, and she's like, yay, I'm good again. Then V decides to be a drama queen and is like, I know you're happy and all right now, Rika, but I had to tell Saeran the truth. Rika killed your mom in a fight. Saeran asks the two to meet him outside to talk. They do, but before that, you give him your final goodbye and run away with Seven and Vanderwood. Saeran tells Rika that he forgives her because he knows he will die soon and he doesn't want to die with hate. The rest of the RFA is awake and super upset by the Saeran situation and the Rika situation. We arrive at Jumin's place and tell him we want to go back for Saeran, but unfortunately none of the security want to go with us and risk their lives. One person does volunteer to take us though, and that is Jumin's driver of all people. Shout out to him! He takes us back to the house as Seven wakes up and hacks the agency to shut them down. When you arrive at the house, Rika gets all emotional and hugs you and is like, thank you for everything you've done for me. I've realized my faults and you've changed me. Girl, I've done nothing for you. What are you talking about? I did nothing but sass you in chat rooms because I hate you. How did that heal you? Rika fans, you get all the credit for that one because I did not help her. I did not forgive her. I do not like her. Anyway, she and V say that they can't find Saeran. You rush outside and find him being nearly beat to death by the Prime Minister. You run to him and hold him in your arms. Then you start talking to the Prime Minister, and you're like, you're lonely, aren't you? You can't be happy with a life like this. You'll be sad and all alone. He runs away, and you and Saeran get to the hospital. Seven and Vanderwood are there when they get word that the Prime Minister is nearby and run off to find him. But it turns out that nearby means really nearby. He was hiding in like the closet of the hospital room, and he tells you and Saeran, thank you. You really understood me and made me feel seen. I will go turn myself in now. Did we just defeat him with the power of friendship? We jump forward in time, and now Jumin is a politician and Jaehee is his assistant. Why on earth is Jumin a politician now? What? Yoosung is moving to France to be a baker. Huh? He wanted to be a vet, not a baker. Zen is pretty much the same, but Rika and V are in jail. I really do not like this ending for V. He did not deserve to go back to Rika and help her with her crazy crimes and go to jail. It just feels wrong. As for you, Seven, and Saeran, you live happily ever after together now. Doing what? I have no clue. You're just in a field making flower crowns? I can't say I'm opposed to it though. I would love to spend my life with a pretty boy and his twin making flower crowns in a field. But that's the Saeran after end. I love the Ray route. It's my second favorite in the game. But I can't say I'm too fond of the after end. Some of the writing choices were weird. Like defeating the Prime Minister with the power of Disney magic, Rika being healed in 2 seconds, all of the characters' new life paths, and all the strange decisions V made. And throughout this whole after end, all I can think about is that the Prime Minister is an idiot. The twins were off doing their own thing. They weren't going after him. Things would have been fine if he just left them alone, but he had to go and kidnap them and make weird deals with Rika. It's your own fault you're in jail, buddy. But despite that, the after ending was still super entertaining and fun, and Saeran got so many good pictures, oh my god. And now I get to live happily ever after with him. So I'll take it. Well, that's it. That is Mystic Messenger. Or for the main story, at least. There's still a bunch of extra content like the Christmas and April Fool's Day DLCs, the other after endings, all of the insane bad endings, including but not limited to the kinky Jumin ending, the Yoosung torture ending, the abusive Saeran end, and the V cuck ending. When I found out about the V one, I was in literal tears because I was laughing so hard. I am proud to say that I have never gotten a bad ending in this game, and I plan to keep it that way. But anyway, this video is insanely long, so let's start to wrap it up. Mystic Messenger is a crazy game with so many twists and turns that you would never expect. When you download it, you're thinking you're going to play a cute game where you text pretty boys, but then all of a sudden you're getting kidnapped by a cult. The story is so fun and interesting, and the characters are really well written and fun to talk to. Do Jaehee and Zen annoy me sometimes? Yes, but I don't hate them and I still like talking to them. And they both have some awesome moments where I'm like, yes, you guys are amazing. This game makes me feel like I have more friends than I actually do. With an amazing story, awesome characters, loads of content, and being free to play with no gacha system, I still think that Mystic Messenger is the best mobile otome game. I will always love it, and I will always have a special place in my heart. And I'm sure that's the same for so many of you. Nothing will ever compare to 2016 when the game released and everyone was playing it and losing sleep over the chat rooms. I'm not sure that there will ever be an experience quite like it ever again. I really hope that you all enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it and revisiting this game. It was super nostalgic. Let me know in the comments below what else you would like me to make a video on. Currently in my free time, I'm playing Cupid Parasite, and I definitely think I have to do a video like this on that game. Also, this is very important, okay? In the comments, please, I am begging you, tell me what your favorite Mystic Messenger emoji is. Like, I want to know so bad. My favorite is either this one or this one. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to see more content from me. Thank you guys so much for watching this insanely long video that I put too much effort into, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!